Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, Horrorboy 465. Welcome back to some more streams. And finally, the streams have come back.
Oh,
That was actually a good sync right there. But
well,
anyways, guys, right. anyways, guys, welcome back to the streams. We are finally back doing some more live streams for you guys. We talk about different things on this live stream. But today I got a really special guest with me. He is the legendary John Grande.
the Pajama Pants player, Triple P, hanging out with my boy Horrorboy 465, the explorer of horror. And we are here tonight to talk about various things. Cannibals will come up, slasher films will come up, the latest and greatest coming out in the cinema of horror films. My boy Nate just got a job. I'm really proud of him. And I figure there's no better way to celebrate than to stream and shoot the shit with my broski. So this is why we're here, and this is why we're going to kick ass on this stream, ladies and gentlemen. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. How you doing, Nate?
I am doing fantastic, man. Just having fun, man. Been a kind of a crazy week getting on this work schedule. I've been
Yeah.
able to, yeah, it really has been. It's been like, because it's my first job, and if you guys don't know, I'm working at a warehouse now, and that's the big reason why I haven't been uploading, because it's been like me focusing on that schedule. But as you guys know, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I'm pretty sure John might have seen it by now or not. I'm not sure, but I kind of had an announcement on there about future reviews I'll be doing for you guys. I promise I will get back more on the schedule. So I do apologize. I know it's been a rocky upload schedule, but yeah, man, I got a warehouse job. It's killer on the feet. It's standing for 10 hours and scanning packages and stuff like that. But it definitely does bring in some dollars. It brings in some moolah, so I'm happy about that. And yeah, so it's pretty cool to be doing another stream with John Grande here.
Thank you, bro. No, nobody I'd rather stream with either.
Thanks, bro. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. So today we're going to be getting into multiple topics. You guys about to be seeing a very, very crazy stream here. We are going to be going deep into the depths of all kinds of different topics, and kind of wanted to see what you've been up to, John. Like, what have you been up to lately? Watch any movies lately, anything like that?
Oh, dude, I've been up to lots, especially with the horror genre. I went to the all nighter that we were just talking about off the air, but I'll reiterate for some people watching this, it was absolutely a blast. 8 horror movies back to back. It was goddamn crazy. 13 and a half hours of boobs, blood, and mayhem, and I enjoyed every single solitary motherfucking second of it, man. It was an absolute blast. I got to see Elvira, I got to see Pinhead, I got to see Leatherface, I got to see all sorts of stuff. Creep Show too. I got to see the Creeper. It was just a great, great time, and it was so fun to see all these movies with people that love them as much as guys like us do. It's great to have that camaraderie and in the theater and watching these old school movies all night long. It's really reassuring to know that the genre is still popular and the genre still has mad followers and people that will line up in droves to see it.
Right.
It's a fantastic feeling to have, and I really really enjoyed myself at that. But I also last night, I know you love this movie. I'm pretty sure you love this movie. I actually have it right here. I took a rewatch for the first time in a long time. I rewatched Wes Craven's Shocker
Oh
from
yeah.
'89. Yeah. Dude, I remember always kind of digging the movie. I mean, I never was a hater of the movie like most people, but man, I had a blast with it this time. Like just even more so of a blast than the previous few times I watched it, man. I freaking love this movie. I got to hear. What do you think of Shocker though? I got to hear.
Oh, dude, Shocker for a long time was probably one of my favorite movies to watch from Wes Craven. I remember when I was a kid, and of course I grew up with Nightmare on Elm Street. But I remember my parents knew that I was a really, because as a kid, man, I was into scary movies, man, and I knew they were fake, so I wasn't like it was damaging for me to watch horror films. So anybody out there that says it's damaging to watch horror films at a young age, it's bullcrap because you know I seen that.
That's what I think of those people.
exactly my thoughts on that. It's such bullcrap. But yeah, my parents bought me a triple pack DVD set with Shocker, Serpent in the Rainbow, and People Under the Stairs.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, I love all three movies. I can't really say which one's my favorite. I would say I would probably rank it like, and this is probably going to shock most people, but I'd probably put it uh, maybe Serpent and the Rambo is probably my favorite one. It's probably my favorite Wes Craven movie, is Serpent and the Rambo. I love that movie to
Wow.
death. Yeah, I know that it's such a movie that doesn't really get talked about that much, but I absolutely love the film. Second place, a very close second place, would be Shocker because I think that Horace Pinker is like such a fun bad guy, and
Finger looking good.
yeah, his lines are just freaking great, and I just love the idea of the movie. The movie just it's so badass. Like that's just the main word I can use to describe it. It's such a awesome horror film. But yeah, I love Shocker, man. I adore that film. I think it's
Dude,
great.
same. And I actually have it. That's funny you say that you have it as a triple feature because I have it as a double feature. It's a double bill
Oh
with
wow.
the People Under the Stairs. I covered up People Under the Stairs just so people could see Shocker. But for years, I've always been a huge People Under the Stairs fan. Like pretty much one of my favorite Wes Craven movies. Probably the one I would say I always go back to Last House and Nightmare, and then probably The Hills Have Eyes. But that would be the next one behind those three for sure. The People Under the Stairs, and I think honestly, Shockers really moved up the ranks, and it's right up there to me with like a Scream or definitely The People Under the Stairs. I just love Shocker, man. I had so much fun with it. The dialogue, I think the acting is really good in the movie as well. Peter Berg and Mitch Pileggi as, of course, Mr. Horace Pinker, who was such a fun villainous character, one of those bad guys you just love to hate and you can't get enough of. He just has so much screen charisma, and it's a movie that I've never heard anybody say this. It's very similar in the idea as Jason Goes to Hell is. Like, I don't know if
Uh,
I've never heard anybody say that, but like it's very similar. It's him passing from body to body to body after he's
mhm.
killed. You know what I
Or
mean?
kind of like the Hidden or that
Yeah,
kind of movie. Um,
definitely.
but I've always heard comparisons to Nightmare on Elm Street, which I always found interesting because viewing this movie when I was younger, I really didn't get a vibe of Nightmare on Elm Street until I kind of listened to some reviews and I went back and watched it later, and I kind of started connecting the dots. I'm like, maybe because of the dream sequences and how certain things play out in the movie. Um, I don't know. Was Wes Craven proud of this movie? I can't remember if he was too fond of this movie or not. I don't remember.
The backstory to me is the most interesting thing about the movie because it was a movie that he stated in interviews before the movie came out that this was going to be his next big movie, that this was going to be his next big hit, the next big horror icon on the level of a Freddy, on the level of a Jason, on the level of a Michael Myers. He was going to be on that level kind of a horror icon, and that's what he was going for here. He was really going to try to make a classic. And I think saying that in interviews was the biggest proverbial shooting yourself in the foot that Wes
True,
Craven may
true.
have ever done because you can't really just go out there and say this is going to be the next horror icon. That's very similar to what Adam Green did with Hatchet. He said this is going to be the next big horror movie. This is going to be the greatest slasher movie since the '80s. And then guess what? It sucked. It totally let everybody down, and that's a damn shame. But at the same time, we appreciate people like Jason, Michael, and Freddie because they organically grew on us. We weren't
Right.
told beforehand these are icons. Watch this. We were just sat down and we watched, and at the end we were the ones that said that's going to be an icon. That's going to be iconic. You kind of have to let the fans organically sort out who's going to be the bigger and better kind of villains and heroes and anti-heroes in the
Right.
genre. And I think Wes Craven kind of shot himself in the foot. I think it's a movie that he's proud of, but I think he's ashamed that it didn't make more money that it did. I believe it had a budget of 5 million and made about 16. So it wasn't a flop.
Yeah.
It wasn't a flop. It was $11 million profits, $11 million profit. Granted, I mean, you only made, you didn't make as much money, I guess, as he was hoping, and not much as Nightmare or even People Under the Stairs would go on to make, I think, over 30 million. But it's not a movie I don't think he's ashamed of. He really liked My Soul to Take. So I,
Oh,
I
good.
I think the only movie he's really ashamed of is Hills of Ice Part Two. I think that's the only movie I can remember him saying
Yeah, I think
I
he
don't really like,
completely disowned that movie, to be
as he
honest. I
should,
think he disowned it. Yeah, I
as he should.
remember. Yeah, I was like, well, when I seen Hills of Ice Part 2, I didn't know there was a Hills of Ice Part 2. That's how little I knew that there was a Hills of Ice Part 2. Yet alone being directed by Wes Craven. I had no clue. So when I watched it and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this is a Wes Craven film? Because it had a lot of quote unquote interesting things they did with the storyline and the characters. Interesting is probably the most subtle thing you'll get from me because when I do that review, it won't be that subtle. But I didn't even know that Wes Craven is not. He was not really a big fan of that movie. He said in plenty of interviews and even written interviews that he was completely disappointed by it. Now, my question is, would it have been a good movie if they would have switched around the plot and maybe handled the characters a little bit more responsibly and have not 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 have a dog's POV, flashbacks and stuff like that? Like, do you think it could have been a decent sequel? They were trying to go for an interesting feel for it, though.
Honestly, don't think so. I think the reason he made the movie is because he had no money at the time, and he was trying to finance Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's why he made the movie. He made the movie just to make money and make a quick buck because he needed the money to make Elm Street, and then that obviously he just threw that movie together. I mean, the Pluto character was clearly killed in the original,
Yeah, I
and,
had no idea why he was brought back in the sequel.
exactly. And it's also a movie that why make a sequel to The Hills Have Eyes? Like you just
True,
don't,
true.
it's just not a movie make a sequel to. Same thing with Last House on the Left. I don't know if you knew this, but for years there was actually going to be a Last House on the Left Part 2.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am. It was actually you could find trailers of it on the internet. You could find a trailer to
Wow.
The Hills Have Eyes part. I mean, not The Hills Have Eyes. I'm sorry, Last House on the Left Part Two, and it was going to be directed by Danny Steinman, who also directed Savage Streets and Friday the 13th Part Five. He was going to make
Huh.
Last House on the Left Part Two, and it was going to feature Krug coming back from the dead and killing
Wow.
people at a summer camp.
Uh, uh,
That was
uh,
the
um,
that was the plot. I swear to you, that was the plot.
how far could you tread away from the original movie?
Yeah, they made it to like a Jason movie. I'm like, dude, Jason's not Krug, number one. Number
Yeah,
two, he was murdered with a chainsaw, and he was not a supernatural character. He was just a regular sicko, So you can't bring him back from the dead. It just would never work. I'm glad that never got made.
yeah,
But
same.
unfortunately, The Hills Have Eyes Part Two was made. So, I mean, that is what it is. But
Yeah. Did you know they made a? It's a TV movie, but I had no clue they made this. But did you know they made a Rosemary's Baby Part Two?
I did know that.
That is crazy. I had no clue until I had looked it up, and the ratings were awful, so I didn't even bother to give it a watch.
They made a Christmas Story 2, Deep Blue Sea Part 2.
Yeah, that
A
was
lot of them
recent.
go direct to DVD. I remember when The Sandlot 2 came out, I was like, holy shit, Sandlot 2? And then I put it in and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is why it's shitty and
It's
didn't go to the
terrible.
theater. Terrible. I mean, beyond terrible. Really, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Terrible.
Absolutely. To be honest though, I think I might have seen Sandlot 2 before I seen Sandlot 1, but I remember not liking Sandlot 2. And then I remember when I seen Sandlot, I'm like, oh, I seen the second movie. I didn't really like it. But I seen the first movie, I'm like, where did the second movie go wrong? Oh, yeah, that's right, in everything, because it was terrible. It was
Oh,
awful.
you're damn right about that, man. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Just a complete why did you make this movie type of thing. But I
It
mean, it
was a
is
pretty
what it
much
is.
rinse and repeat, right? That's
Yeah.
what I can remember, right? It was just the same movie.
Yeah. Can you
I don't
still see me,
understand
by the
that.
way?
Yeah, I can still see you.
You still see me good? Okay, sorry. I had a bad glare on my glasses, so I just turned my screen completely dark. So I was just getting annoyed. I was like, why the hell is my screen like this bad in my eyes? So sorry about that.
No
But all right,
problem. No problem.
let's start talking about a little bit about the upcoming movies in that are coming to the theaters, upcoming horror movies. We already have two in the theater. If you'd like to talk about either one, I have not seen either one, so I don't know how much I can give. But the Meg and Slender Man are in the movies right now. What are your thoughts on those two, Nate?
Um, like yourself, I haven't really seen the movies yet. I did hear a lot of great things about the Meg. I remember when I seen the commercial for it a while ago. I was like, "This is a movie I want to see." I mean, it's got Jason Statham. It's pretty much Jaws with Jason Statham. Only the shark is like 1,000 times bigger than Jaws, and from what I've heard, it's got some great reviews. So that's definitely a movie. I definitely want to see that more than Sharknado, and I still have not seen any Sharknado movies. But
Oh, really?
yeah, and I know people said that I should watch them because they're not bad, but I remember when the whole Sharknado thing was going on, and I just was like, nah, I'll kind of stay out of that. Like, yeah, they might be fun movies, but I kind of steered clear from them. But
Can't blame you.
the Meg though looked great. I was pretty much just like Jason Statham kicking Shark's butt. So I was like, I was like, that's definitely a movie I want to see. Slender Man, on the other hand, was a movie that I'd actually seen a previous adaptation of called Always Watching, a Marble Hornet story, and it's based off of a YouTube series. And if you haven't seen the YouTube series, I would definitely look it up. I can't remember. I think it might have been called Marble Hornets. That's why it's called a Marble Hornet story. But John, if you haven't seen that series yet, it's a very old series, but I think that faithfully does the whole lore a lot better. And the movie for me just felt like, because for years I was a big fan of creepypasta, and that's what that is based off of. It's based off of creepypasta. I mean, for those of you that don't know what creepypasta is, it's pretty much internet ghost stories, spooky stories to keep you up at night. And Slender Man was always one of my favorite creepypastas to read. And I had played the games back when the whole Slender Man craze was going on. And I remember way back in the day, I made a video on my channel and I was like, they need to make some more creepypasta movies because they never made one before. And I remember I had seen Always Watching, and it's not a perfect movie, but it was an okay movie. It wasn't the greatest Slender Man adaptation, but it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. But when I heard this movie was being announced, I was like, at first I was into it because I was like, here you're taking creepypasta and you're doing what I told you, or doing what I was wanting them to do. I was wanting them to make a very high budget creepypasta based film because some of those scripts some of those stories could be made into awesome movies. Like, John, I recommend if you never read 1999, read that story. That story is scarier, it was scarier than any movies coming out back in when I had read that. It's an old story, but I was always wanting that to be made into a movie. And I think this was made to see if they could market creepypasta. And the reason this movie offends me so much is because not only does it follow it doesn't faithfully look at the Slender Man lore. It kind of just treads on it on a thin line and tries to market it for a younger audience. You could tell that the studio was more involved with it than maybe the director and writers were. And I was very intrigued by it at first until I started seeing some clips. And then when I seen it was PG-13, I just completely got turned off because I was like, Slender Man should not be PG-13. And if you're going to market a PG-13 first actual big budget creepypasta film, who's to say they would make other creepypasta movies PG-13 as well? For those creepypasta fans out there, we all know that creepypasta is not PG-13. They are completely rated R stories. So it's like when they made Dragon Ball Evolution. That's like the first movie that came to my head. For us DBZ fans, it was just really awful because it just didn't follow what we wanted to follow. For me, I think the reason the movie failed is because it tried to juggle two things. It tried to appeal to the creepypasta audience, and it also tried to appeal to the normal horror fan audience who just goes and sees, these really generic horror films every, January or whatever months that they come out. And I think it killed the possibility for us to get a big chronicle series of these stories. I mean, you could have had amazing movies. Like I said, if 1999 was made into a film and they could make an actual script for that, that movie would be phenomenal. Same with like Jeff the Killer. If that story was made into a movie, like these stories were just so amazing and they were made on the internet. So I feel like that's why that movie offends me so much. And I've heard so many people tell me, well, Nate, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's just a dumb horror film. I'm like, I get that, but it could have been something way bigger than that. But I'm ranting, so I'm sorry for raving so much. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it, man. I was really disappointed by it.
No, dude, I totally appreciate. I like talking about stuff like this because I kind of am on the same vein as you, and I didn't even see the movie yet. So as for the movie itself, I don't know. I didn't see it yet, so I can't judge the movie. All I know is I've heard it's god awful. Like I've heard it is
Yeah,
shit on
and
shit.
it bombed.
It gets like a 2.9 IMDb. Like that's fucking like crazy low. Like that's lower than like Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation. That's like lower than Troll 2, I believe. That's how low it is.
Wow,
Yeah, I and that's pretty bizarre because I didn't think it would be that bad. But granted, I have not seen it,
wow.
so maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe I have to, formulate my own opinion. But as for what you're saying, I definitely think they could have caught this whole internet wave of 1999 and Jeff the Killer and Slender Man, even Slender Man for that matter. I think they are just about 10 years too late. Like when that
Absolutely,
stuff was all popular when I was in fucking middle school. So that means
absolutely.
you were probably in early elementary school.
Yeah, I was getting scared in my little kitty bedroom with like NASCAR on the walls and stuff like that. That's back when I was in a big old box computer getting scared from that crap.
Yo, but like it's just crazy to me that like why did they no one say let's pull the trigger now that it's hot? You have to strike the iron when it's hot. You don't fucking wait a
Absolutely.
decade. Every the big joke with this Slenderman movie, and I cannot blame these people for making this joke because it's fucking true. Slenderman is the most anticipated movie of 2009. It
Yeah,
absolutely was, and it's totally just completely not special anymore. I know the documentary Beware the Slender Man with the two girls that tried to kill the other girl to sacrifice her for the Slender Man to prove themselves a Slender Man. Everybody knows that whole news story. I know that kind of brought him back into the lore a couple years back, but man, they just waited way too goddamn long, way too long to release a movie like that. And also to tone it down to make it PG-13, that does not make any goddamn sense to me at all. And at the same time, I know that Sony apparently cut the movie to shit because they were afraid that it would offend people. If you're going to make a Slender Man movie PG-13 and then you're going to cut it to shit so it won't offend people, why do it in the first place? Like, why even make that movie? Nobody
you're
wants to see
still
a fucking
offending
G-rated
people.
Slender Man movie. It's I'd rather not fucking spend my money on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like the concept, and I do agree with you. It's like, and that's what I mean, man. I was really young back in the day making videos about this. I don't know. I started making videos in 2013, so by that time, it wasn't really at its peak anymore, but it was still talked about. People were still talking about them every so often. And I was pretty much making videos back then saying, like, you guys need to hop on this right now while this train still has a little bit of steam, because you try to make these movies later on and it's just like they're going to be totally irrelevant. And it's like everybody's going to be like not interested in it anymore because, like, oh, Slenderman. I remember that when I was like 6. So it's like, and it's
It's a
like,
joke. It's become a
yeah,
joke in and of itself. It's
it
sad,
becomes a
man.
laughing matter. And
Absolutely. And you look at like 1980 when Friday the 13th came out. They struck the iron immediately. 1981, you got more slashers in that year than you
yeah,
did in the entire decade before.
Yeah, and most sequels that do take their time end up being completely different movies than the original, like Psycho 2, like Evil Dead 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. That's how you do sequels if you're going to wait that large amount of time to do a sequel.
Yeah,
But the
but the problem with Slenderman is they waited to do the original. Like
yeah,
that's the problem. Like what the fuck? What are you waiting 10 years for? That shit
yeah,
that shit was huge when I remember. I'll never. People were like talking about it. It was on the desktop. You couldn't go into a cafeteria when I was in fucking middle school and not hear anything about the Slender Man when that shit was going down. That was the people looking at photos. Do you see him in this photo? He's apparently in this photo. I don't see him. That was the fun of it. It was the lore. It was the fear of the unknown. It was the fear of this faceless
yeah,
entity. But they just waited way too long to strike that iron, man. In 1980, like I'm saying, after Friday the 13th, bam, they struck the iron. Year of the slasher in 81. You know what I mean? You have to strike that iron while it's hot, and if you don't, it becomes a goddamn joke. And that's exactly what this movie was before it was released. Even without seeing it, I could tell you that the movie's a goddamn joke. Whether it's good, bad,
yeah.
or great, even if it's a great movie, it's just too damn late.
It has that Bye Bye Man status.
Dude, the Bye Bye Man is actually higher rated by like a point.
Oh
I
goodness.
think I think Bye Bye
Oh
Man gets like a
goodness.
3.9, which is
Oh
crazy.
jeez.
That's absolutely crazy because that movie is god awful, man. Bye Bye
Wow.
Man was really fucking bad. So I could only imagine how bad Slender Man must be. But even with that said, I have heard a couple of good things. Like I haven't heard entirely bad, but still, I just think they waited a little too long to strike the iron with
Yeah.
that one. But and as for the Meg, I'm not really the biggest shark movie guy. I won't lie. I'm not saying it's probably a fine movie. It's probably just like you said, a fun shark movie. Jason Statham, no foul, no harm there. But I don't know. I just wasn't one of those movies where I was like, I want to go see that. You know what I mean? Like that. Those
Yeah.
movies don't sell me too much. I actually will see Slender Man down the road because I'm very curious to see if a it's
How
that
bad it
bad,
is.
and two if it's really like I'm just kind of interested to see because I remember seeing the trailer in January and I thought this is like a good trailer. It didn't you didn't they didn't show much, they didn't say much, just really relied on atmosphere. And I was like, it's been a while since a horror movie relied on atmosphere. But then the second
Yeah,
trailer came
absolutely.
out, and I was like, okay, this was the trailer I was thinking I was going to see. But it is what it is. I'm kind of sad that the movie bombed, and the Meg actually did pretty well, but Slender Man bombed critically. It bombed. I think it made quite a bit of money though. I think it made over 20 million.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. Like the Meg did.
The Meg made way more. Slender Man made 20 million, which
Oh jeez,
imagine what it would have made in 2010. It probably would have made
dude, that
over
would have been
100
a big
million
hit.
dollars.
And that's the thing that I don't get is like now that that is over, horror has changed. You know, we've had the supernatural genre take over, and I feel like you could have had two big A trains going through horror. You could have had the train to where if you wanted to watch these supernatural ghost stories like Insidious and The Conjuring, you also have The Nun coming out very soon, which I'm going to be watching, giving it a review. You got all these paranormal movies coming out. And then can you imagine if you didn't really want to watch the paranormal movies and get into that craze, you could hop off onto the creepypasta craze, where it's these dark stories about these really interesting characters that were made on the internet that could have became the next Jasons, the next Freddys, that could have became the next icons.
Ding, ding, ding. Nate, you're a smart person, man. That's why I enjoy talking horror with you. Exactly. They
Like,
do
you know what
not
I mean?
understand how bad they fucked this up because they could have marketed both of the paranormal movies and you could have these creepy pasta movies. You could have had which one did you like better this year? Jeff the Killer, the movie, or did you like Conjuring 2? It would have been a great kind of battle between studios. You would have had Blumhouse
Absolutely.
versus whoever would have been able to pull the trigger on these creepy pastas, but nobody decided to ever do it. And it's a shame because you're right. Maybe we missed the next thing to move us along in the genre. Like to me, the last movie to move us along in the genre was Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, yeah, because there's
I,
never really been a groundbreaking film since then.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember seeing previews for that, and it was not even previews of the movie. It was just audience reactions, and that's how they marketed the movie. It was very organic. People found it very organically scary, and the movie made a shit ton of money. They don't do that anymore. Now it's just like, like I don't know how do you feel about Jason Blumhouse? Because if that's even his first name Jason? I don't even know why I think
I think it
Jason.
is Jason.
Okay, I think so
Um,
too.
I'm not really the biggest Blumhouse guy. I
Neither
never
am I.
really have been. To me, to be bluntly honest with you, they just make really generic looking horror films that, to me, don't really have too much value. The only movie that has me hyped, and I'll be honest, I've been hearing a lot of people kind of downing this movie, but I actually got a lot of hope in it. It's the new Halloween movie. That's the only Blumhouse movie that I'm actually hyped for because it's gonna be the second Halloween movie I've seen in the theater.
Oh,
Hold on, John.
you muted yourself. Can you hear me?
Hang on, John. I'll be right back.
Okay, buddy.
1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that, guys.
That's all good, buddy.
But like I was saying, I'm actually really hyped for the new Halloween movie because it's going to be the second Halloween movie I've seen in the theaters, and I haven't seen a Halloween movie since Rob Zombie's Halloween. So, I got a T-shirt ready for it. I'm going to be going either opening night or second night. I'm going to be having a blast, and the movie might suck, but I'm going to be really hyped for it, and I don't know. We'll see how Blumhouse handles it, but Blumhouse in general, I'm just not a big fan of because, to me, most of their movies just try to appeal to, okay, let's market this movie that has a really dumb plot and a really dumb premise and really generic characters, but we're going to market it to where we can try to profit it to like the younger audience. And that's pretty much all that Blumhouse does. Like, let's be honest. What's the groundbreaking Blumhouse movie? Like, there's not really that big movie. Like, most of them are just movies that you're kind of like, that one kind of sucked. That one kind of sucked. Like in retrospect, maybe back in the day when they came out, there was a lot of hype around it. But retrospect's like, does anybody really watch this anymore?
I'll be honest with you, man. I think he should thank James Wan every single day because without James Wan, I don't think you'd even know who Jason Blumhouse was. I think James Wan really made that guy all the money that he's going to make. And that brings me into my question to you about the Nun thing. With The Conjuring, you had a great movie. I thought The Conjuring was a great movie. I think you were a little bit let down. Am I correct?
Yeah, I was not really the biggest fan of the first movie. Second movie was a big improvement, though.
Okay, cool. Okay. But okay, so with both, I liked both Conjuring movies. I think most people enjoyed both. But then you go for the spin-offs with Annabelle and now The Nun coming out in September. And I gotta ask because I feel a certain way about this, and I don't know how you feel. I'd like to know. How do you feel about spin-offs from very minor instances and plot holes and arcs from movies like The Conjuring. Like now it's called The Conjuring universe with The Nun and Annabelle. Like how do you feel about them making spin-offs of stuff that was so minute and minor in a big movie, a grand movie like The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, and now making this entire movie based
Right.
on something that was so small in these movies? I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, it's a very cheap tactic. It's something that's really easy to make, doesn't really require too much effort, and to me, I think it's their cheapest route. I don't know the budget to this new Nun movie. Granted, I've only seen Conjuring 1 and 2, and I've never seen spinoffs. Maybe that's why I'm not going into rant mode. I've never seen Annabelle. I never seen Annabelle Creation. I know Ouija's not in the Conjuring universe, but isn't that Blumhouse? Or can't remember if Ouija was or not.
I think the second Ouija may have been Blumhouse. I don't know about the first one. The first one was a huge flop, And then the second one came out, and people actually really dug it because they got Mike Flanagan to direct, and he's actually does some pretty decent horror
Yeah,
movies. I've liked
that
most of
second
his
one was
stuff.
way better.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's a very cheap tactic. Again, I've never seen any of the spinoffs. I mean, I was just never really interested in seeing Annabelle when it came out. I know when it came out, people were like, "Oh, they're making an Annabelle movie," and the only intrigue that I got from that kind of plot line is because of the history of Annabelle that I did know. That's the only thing that drew me to that concept, is because I knew about the investigation that involved Annabelle. But to base it off of a Conjuring or kind of origin story. Um, to me, they're just not very interesting. The Nun will be the first spin-off movie that I've seen, and I do agree with you. It's just weird how you get these little details in films. Like literally, what did Annabelle do in Conjuring? She did nothing.
Nothing.
She
She
literally had no importance in the plot other than she was just there. I think she was involved with the twist, but it's like it was so minute. But the nun, I thought was what was the nun. I thought was to The Conjuring 2. Like it fit that film, and so did the Crooked Man, which I heard they're going to make a movie on that too.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like I think what really made Annabelle scary in The Conjuring was the fact that it was such a small part, that it was so quick. And it's the opening scene of the movie is where they deal with Annabelle and they realize this doll is in fact possessed or whatever. And it's a scary opening scene. It's a great way to open a horror movie. And I thought, this is great. Then when I heard about the movie Annabelle, I initially was like one of those people. I was excited. I was like, well, that was one of my favorite parts in the Conjuring. Let's see how Annabelle is. Then you see Annabelle, and granted, it really is not the greatest movie at all. It's a pretty bad movie in my opinion, actually. But my thing is, even more so than the movie being good or bad or whatever, it really hurts the lore and what made Annabelle scary to begin with. And what made Annabelle scary to begin with was you didn't know the backstory. You
Yeah,
didn't know where the doll
mystery.
came from. You just saw it do this one thing in this one scene to people that you never previously knew or never previously like never saw after that. But what made it work was that it was quick. It was bang bang boom. You know what I mean? Just really really quick. And I think that's what made it scary. Then when you explain that, oh well, it was actually this Manson-esque cult that broke into somebody's house. The girl got shot and then transferred her soul into the doll, and like
It
what are you
ruined it.
doing? You ruined the entire thing that made it scary. And I wish I could unsee it because now every time I watch The Conjuring and that opening scene, I can't help but think of that stupid goddamn Annabelle movie, you know? And then the prequel to that, Annabelle Creation, which I have no interest in. I will never see that. I will absolutely never ever see that. I have no interest in seeing that shit.
They're just gonna
Um,
keep on trying to milk it as much as they can.
yeah, exactly.
Crooked Man. It's
Like,
like
go ahead.
why? Well, I was gonna say I didn't really mean to interrupt, but I was just gonna say that even though the Nun kind of intrigued me a little bit, the only reason why I'm not that mad at it is because I haven't seen the prequels at all. I've never seen any of the Conjuring prequels. But when I heard about the Nun, I was like, why? Is there really a need to do that? And there really isn't. Um, and then when I heard about the Crooked Man, I'm like, why? Like these are characters who are just parts of the film that don't need explaining. It's like what Rob Zombie did with Halloween. You don't need to explain this stuff. Michael Myers is the shape. You don't explain the shape.
It'd be like giving Crazy Ralph his own movie. Like what the like why would you do that? Like we all love Crazy Ralph and Friday the 13th, but he was a very minute part. We didn't have to know where he was from, why he was crazy, how he knew that they
Yeah,
were all doomed. They were just all doomed. We didn't have to know
yeah.
why.
Or
I
Sheriff Brack at the movie. It's like why? Why would you do something like that?
Exactly. And it's just it doesn't make any sense to me. Like listen, like will the Nun make money? Probably. I would probably bet it makes a good chunk of change. But I'm not a big fan of these like movies saying, okay, we had a hit here. Let's take some minute thing from it and make another movie out of it just to take people's money. You're right.
Yeah.
It's such a cheap cash grab. And to be honest, I feel kind of bad for the average moviegoer that's going to be tricked into seeing this stuff. I mean, if people are interested in seeing it, my heart goes out to you. Go see it, support it. I like seeing horror movies make money. People say, "Oh, you always think shit's going to be bad." Like, listen, I've seen a lot of bad horror movies, man. I can't help it sometimes. Sometimes I just see something I think it's going to be shitty. Like I can't
Right.
help it. But at the same time, I do not root for movies to bomb. I wanted Slender Man to make money. I wanted The Meg to make money. I want all those movies. I want Halloween's going to make a shit ton of money. I want it to make that kind of money because hopefully if it makes money, they'll come out with something original that will make money. You know what I mean? And then we
Yeah.
moved along in the genre. So I'm never against for movies making money. I'm just saying I think that The Nun is a little bit kind of meh feel for me right now, just because I'm have that sour taste of Annabelle in my mouth. But at the same time, around late September, early October, late October, people want to go see horror movies in the theater. And I think that's the best time to release horror movies, not in goddamn January.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you just know if it's January. Most of us horror fans know that January is the month that we avoid because, to be honest, the movies I have seen in January, like The Gallows, I've seen The Forest, these are all movies that I think suck. Like they're bland and they're awful. Um, but the best part was watching in theaters because of the crowd reactions. Like that was the funnest part about seeing those movies is because and literally when I was watching The Forest, people were laughing at it. That's how bad that movie was, and it was such a good premise, but they ruined it. They freaking squandered it. And it's like when I was watching The Gallows, people were laughing at that too. So it's fun to go to the theaters and see all these movies with people, and it's bad. We all know it's bad. Let's laugh at it, have a good time. But then there's movies that you'll get surprised by. Like for me, I know this remake doesn't get too many positive thoughts, but Evil Dead. I remember seeing that in theaters, and that was a really fun experience. Unfriended, which you might not like. Most horror fans don't like it, but I think it was a pretty good movie. I thought it had a great concept, and it was a fun movie to see in the theaters. And I really want to see the sequel because that movie knew what it was trying to target, and it targeted it at a great time. Because yeah, the deep web stuff was a while ago, but it wasn't as long as the creepypasta stuff. So at least
Nothing was as long as the creepy pasta stuff.
yeah. So they definitely tackled that a lot better. But yeah, I think that January is a horrible month, dude. It's just a terrible month for us horror fans.
It's definitely true, but in a lot of ways, at the same time, I totally agree. Usually, these movies that are released in January are trash, but I feel like at the same time, they're really set up to fail. Like, why not just try to release one of them in October? Like, be like, listen, we're going to release this mid-October and people are going to be in the mood to see horror movies. Like that was the secret, in my opinion, to Saw's success. Every Saw
Yeah,
movie was released the last week of October. That's why they all made money, because people want to go see horror movies in the theater around the October. It's just human fucking nature.
yeah,
So why would you release it in January? It's horrible weather outside. I mean, nobody's going to want to even bother to drive to the movie unless it's fairly close to their house. And you market the movies like shit. Like, granted, are they all good movies? Very rarely are they any good. But man, I feel like they're kind of set up to fail. Like, just take a chance with one of them. And I just think
yeah,
they should take a chance, because at least movies like The Forest, movies like The Gallows, while they take borrowed stuff from other movies, at least they're not remakes and they're not sequels. At least they're trying to do something along the lines of originality. Granted, I've seen 100 movies like The Gallows, 100 movies better than The Gallows, but at the same time, I feel like it was a movie that was kind of set up to fail. Was that a January release?
I don't know for sure. I know The
I'm
Forest
gonna
was
look it up.
for sure. I know that Unfriended might have been.
I'm gonna look it up right now on my phone.
I know The Forest was for sure though, because I remember saying, "Oh, great, we're gonna go see a January release." I want to look
Yeah, I
up
remember
one that I
watching
thought,
your review.
yeah. Uh, I think I remember seeing oh no, Crimson Peak came out in October. The movie sucked, but I thought it came out in August. That came out in October. That's crazy. Some
Wow.
of these movies feel like August, not August, January. They feel like January movies, though.
Yeah, that's true. There are actually plenty of January movies that feel, it's bizarre to me, man. Well,
They released The Gallows in July.
yeah, July 10th. Wow, actually, wow, that's surprising because I always thought it was January horror movie. Um, wow, that's actually, see, I think if you release it in July, actually, you're maybe setting the movie up to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean July is not nearly as bad uh as January, but we
Well,
also do have
anytime where it's like good weather, midsummer, that's like blockbuster time. So I think that's actually a good time to release it as well. But I'll stick with late September into October is when you should release horror movies that you really want to be, make a big profit. And I think
right.
movies like Halloween, movies like The Nun, they're definitely going to make money. But I also wanted to ask you about moving forward here. Did you see the Suspiria trailer? Because that comes out in late October, early November.
I did, and it honestly, I don't really know what to think about it. It honestly looks pretty good, but it's because I haven't seen the original Suspiria at all. I've never even seen the trailer to it, so I have no like original thought on Suspiria. So, witnessing what I seen, that was the first trailer I'd ever seen of a Suspiria plot or anything like it. So, for me, it looked pretty interesting. It looked like it had some pretty good camera work. Acting didn't seem too bad. It looked like it was setting up things pretty decently. But there have been plenty of remakes that have come out that have been looking good and ended up being trash. So I don't know. It could be pretty good. I think it looks pretty good, honestly.
I agree. I think it looks really good, and that's surprising coming from somebody who thinks the original Suspiria is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Because I do think the original Suspiria is that great of a movie, and it's just kind of strange because it really does not look like it's taking anything, like not much at all, from the original. And I think maybe that's why it will work. It looks creepy, genuinely unnerving. It really does. And I don't know, I kind of have some hope for it. Like I'm that's kind of my next anticipated, even more than Halloween, which is people are going to be like, "What?" Like, but I'll be honest cuz I haven't seen a movie trailer like that in a long time, where just a movie just completely just looked just unnerving. Like that's the word that immediately came to mind. I was like, "That looks goddamn
Yeah,
crazy." You know, and who knows, you might be right. It might be just like the rest of the remakes that show all that promise, but I don't know. I kind of have some faith in it. I'm hoping that maybe it'll deliver. But man, I'd recommend you see the original Suspiria definitely before you see the remake. Do not see the remake first, because then you'll be like, "What the hell is the original?" You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Like, what am I freaking watching? But I actually was wanting to track down Suspiria, and I know this really awesome website that has Suspiria on it, and it's the full film in HD. So I definitely want to give it a watch because uh, I've never ever seen a Dario Argento film, and I kind of really regret that. That's like a very hurtful place in my heart that I've never seen a Dario Argento film before. Uh, I have seen Lucio Fulci. I haven't seen all of his movies, but I did see Zombie, and that was really good. So I want to check out more Lucio Fulci, like The Beyond, and I want to check out City of the Living Dead, and he has multiple movies that I really want to check out. But Dario Argento, I'm definitely there's the big two movies that I really want to see from him. One is Suspiria, and the other I can't remember the name of, but it's his two big films, and I want to see both of them.
Deep Red.
Yes, Deep Red. I want to see both Deep Red and Suspiria. Thank you, John. I couldn't remember it for some reason.
That's okay, dude. Yeah, I recommend you see anything Argento because he is one of the great masters of horror that ever lived, and I think that you'd really dig his stuff, especially if you start watching it. Because I've seen pretty much almost everything he's ever done, and I freaking love his movies, man. Deep Red and Suspiria, Phenomena, Opera, Inferno, Tenebrae. I mean, so many classic awesome horror movies, man. I think you'd really, really dig his work, and I'm actually really excited to see this remake. Like I never ever thought I'd say that, because I thought it'd be generic and the filmmaker wouldn't understand why the original worked. But it looks to me as though he did understand why the original worked, because it just looks batshit crazy, and that's a big reason why the original works. A lot of people don't get that when they see the original Suspiria. They go, "Oh, well, it made no sense." Well, yeah, it did it. It's just kind of a dreamlike kind of atmosphere throughout the entire movie, and I think that's why Suspiria really works. But man, I'm pretty excited to see that one, and I'll definitely be seeing Halloween in the theater as well. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm kind of
Right, right.
excited for the next couple months of horror.
It's gonna be an awesome next couple of months, dude. I am so hyped. I've been telling people for a while that this upcoming October is looking really good because we're having a lot of releases that look very interesting. Um, and I actually recently, it's not October yet, obviously, but I just recently seen The Purge, the first Purge, and I actually really enjoyed it. I don't know if the reviews were so kind on it. And again, I haven't seen Anarchy or Election Year. I've heard really great things about Anarchy. I love the first movie, even though most people don't. I really like the first movie. Uh, the third movie I heard got some bad ratings, but I honestly really like the first Purge. But yeah, I haven't really seen too many Italian horror films. And the ones I have seen, um, I've seen very few, but the few that I have seen have definitely got me hooked on to Italian horror. Uh, so that's a good sign.
Oh, dude, no doubt. I could give you an entire list of shit. You'd literally have no, you'd have like crazy amount of time to spend to watch all of it. But man,
They're all like 3 hours long. I noticed that.
yeah, I tried to show I've tried to show them to a few people that a lot of them don't really understand why these movies work and why they're so good. It's hard. It's really it's an acquired taste, Italian horror, but I think once you get it and once you get why it works, it's great because they do
Yeah,
gore and music and atmosphere and lighting and cinematography and all that stuff just perfectly, man. I really really dig Italian horror filmmaking. I think it's really really awesome, whether it be Dario Argento, Ruggero Deodato, Umberto Lenzi, which are two guys we're about to talk about with the whole cannibal discussion. So actually, I think that'd be a great segue if you want to get into the cannibal discussion.
oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, as we're speaking on Italian horror films, today we're going to be discussing. To get to the main topic, we're going to be discussing not only Cannibal Holocaust, but also the cannibal craze that came afterwards. Now, Cannibal Holocaust, I think, is the only cannibal movie I've seen. There's a million of them, so um, there's only really the big ones I know about. A couple of them are good. From most of the reviews I've heard, some of them are good, some of them are okay, most of them are cringy. But I definitely think that the king of them all is Cannibal Holocaust. And I just was wanting to get you involved with this discussion because I know that you're really a big fan of Cannibal Holocaust. And, about a year ago, I don't know if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I did a review for it, and that was the first time I had ever seen it, and it was that and Serbian Film. Those were two movies that I vowed that I would never see, and I broke that vow because I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna judge this movie before I see it. And I don't know if I'll ever see Serbian Film because I've heard too many things about it, and I'm just not interested in it at all. But something about Cannibal Holocaust gravitated me towards it. Um, I think it's because the whole idea of an Amazon cannibal tribe really interested me. That was a subject that kind of drew me in. I heard it was a very shocking film, but I also heard it was a very impactful, groundbreaking horror film, and that was the part that got me interested. And I covered the film, like I said, about 2 years ago, and in that review, I don't think I did the film justice because I mainly was just saying, "Oh, it's so shocking and brutal," and "Oh, it's this and that," and it wasn't until I watched it the second time. It wasn't until I watched it like a couple more times actually, and I started realizing like, yeah, the movie is very violent and very gory and very offensive, but I think that it's a very effective horror film. I think it's probably one of the strongest examples of horror from the 1980s. that I think was way ahead of its time, like light years away from its time, in terms of looking at human nature. Because back in those days, we really had to turn to Italian horror films to kind of examine that. Really, the only movies from the early 80s and 70s to really be doing that kind of stuff for me was stuff like Cronenberg. He was examining the human body, the organism that we are, the whole biological look at humans and human nature. And that's really the only director that I really know of who looked at that. And of course, we had directors who focused on the human psyche. Directors like the people who made Maniac, and the director who made Maniac, and people involved with Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. But I think what made Cannibal Holocaust, probably, and I would honestly say this is probably one of my favorite horror films because I think that it was something just so strong and so powerful that I don't think it was uh, the times couldn't even handle it. And that's how big this movie was. And it was the only film to have a director charged with murder. He was going to really serve freaking prison time. And he had to actually prove to the courts about these effects and how this was done. The only issue that I have with the film is that because I've kind of come to terms with how dark it is, but I kind of think it was meant to be that dark because it's an examination of the human nature and about how who are the real savages, who are the real as the end of the movie says, who is the real cannibals. And I think that's probably my favorite aspect for me. And that's probably the scariest thing about this movie. That is probably way scarier than all the other shocking stuff. Um, and for me, I think that it touches on some really strong subjects that film didn't dare to go. And, you know, that's why, and I also vowed never to pick it up on Blu ray or DVD. That was a long time promise for me. And the reason I made these vows and stuff like that is because of the things I heard about it. I heard all about all the bad stuff. I heard about how gory it is and how sick it is and how offensive it is. But really, it adds to that powerful, hard edge to the film. And it makes it a very difficult film to sit through. But if you do sit through it, I think you can come to appreciate what the film tried to do. And that's what I appreciate about it. I appreciate that Argento went out in the jungle. He went out to the Amazon and shot this film on a very low budget, making very believable effects and working with real tribes. This is real tribe. This is the real Amazon. This is a film that would never be made nowadays. I think Eli Roth made The Green Inferno. I think he tried to make it as faithful to Cannibal Holocaust as he could. But there's just something about this film in particular, and it's even the movies after it couldn't really do it right. It's that balance of gore, dark subjects, the human psyche, and it's just not. I think the reason that most people don't like it is because of how dark it is. It's a very hard hitting film, and if you're not ready, it'll make you think about your morals, make you think about different things, and that's why I mean I've never really picked up on Blu-ray or DVD at all, but I definitely want to pick up the 3 disc set. It comes with the first disc, which is the movie on Blu-ray. It comes with the second disc, which is all the features, and then it comes with a CD with the soundtrack. So I definitely want to pick it up one day. But yeah, dude, I mean, there's just not much more I can say about it. I think it's a fantastic film that, we'll get into more of the cannibal film that came after it, but it definitely laid down foundations to how dark films could get and how dark humans could be and characters in a film. But for me, the only problem with the movie is that I'm not a fan at all of the butchery of animals. I think that's completely wrong. I think it's something that Diodato regrets to this day. Uh, that's something that And the good thing about the cut of the film that I'm going to be picking up is that it actually has a version without the killings. So I would much rather watch that version because, I get it. I get why it was done. It was done to shock. It was pretty much done for shock value. It was really because I guess it was kind of just on the spot stuff, and they didn't want to make practical effects for it, and it was just there to kind of shock the audience, which it did, and I think it adds that extra layer of powerful uh, darkness to the film, but it's kind of an unnecessary layer. The film was already dark enough. You didn't really need to have these animals, killed on screen. And that's another thing that would never happen nowadays. You would never have that because of PETA and because of all these, animal rights organizations now. But it's such a dark film, but at the same time, you have these great elements to it, like the acting, in my opinion, which really isn't the best. I mean, there's certain points where the acting completely sucks. I'll be honest about that. But it convinces you at points that these characters are going through this. They're going through these rough conditions. And I think it has strong direction, a really awesome score, a really haunting score. It has probably one of the best third acts I've ever seen in a horror film, where it just kind of builds it and builds it and builds it. And when you think it's gone as far as it'll go, it goes even farther. And that's the thing about this movie is not only is it a great horror film, it's also a great test to see how far you can sit through. How much can you see? And it's like an adventure. It's like when you're watching this movie, you're kind of going on this adventure through this film, a roller coaster ride. And for years, I heard people say that expression, and I never really experienced that with films. It's just been, a movie. But with this kind of movie, it's different. You feel all kinds of emotions watching it, and I think it's probably the most faithful movie to that statement. But yeah, I know that I rambled on way too freaking long. I am so sorry, John. But I'm gushing too much. I think it's a great movie. I think it's dark, uh, has really really dark subject matter, but I think it's a great movie.
Dude, nothing to apologize for at all. I think your analysis was beautiful and you really got it. You got the movie. I think a lot of people to this day don't even get this movie as much as you do. And like you said, the first time you watched it, that was the reaction was, wow, this movie's so crazy. This movie's sick. The reputation really speaks louder than the movie itself nowadays because of all the animal cruelty and because of all the violence in it and because of that the of course the scene with the girl impaled on the pole. But I agree with you, man. I think it's one of those movies that it's the scariest thing about it is the fact that who is the savages? Is it these tribes that live in the middle of the Green Inferno, or is it these New York City preppy film students? I mean, that's what always really got me about the movie. Even from the first time I saw it, I got it. I was like, that's why this movie is great because they introduce you to these four characters and she says something along the lines of is there anything you're afraid of and he goes oh I'm afraid of commitment and she goes yeah he's afraid of marriage and she nudges him and they're all laughing and shit and it's that moment where you're like okay they're a bunch of phony preppy kids whatever the lengths they continue to go to and what you see what they do they burn down their tribes and huts and they shoot their dinner, they shoot that pig point blank in the head, and then to have sex in the ashes of these poor people's houses and make them watch. I mean, that's just some of the most insane shit you can ever imagine. This is some of the most insane stuff you could ever see. And I think that's why this movie really, really works because Ruggiero Diodato did not hold back on the gas pedal. He fucking floored it. And
Yeah,
that was it was not I don't think at any time when in the 80s people said, "Oh, don't do this whole animal cruelty thing, blah blah blah." That's in almost every cannibal movie. Cannibal Ferox has it. There's stock footage of it in movies like Mountain of the Cannibal God. Animal cruelty in cannibal films is pretty regular. I know it's the biggest in this because it's the most savage in this, but I don't think at the time it was that big of a red flag. It's more of a big red flag today because the world is very politically correct and people cannot like there are people that like animals more than people. Like I like animals, but I don't know. I like people more. I'm not. I know there. Listen, there are some shitty people, but I'm not saying that all people are bad and oh fuck people, animals rule. You know what I mean? I
Right.
like every living thing. I don't think anything is all lives matter, all that bullshit. You know what I mean? I believe in that.
Right.
And I think that's why now it has such a big rep too, because it's very politically incorrect movie. There's
It
nothing
is.
about it that is PG. There's nothing about it that is tame. And like you said, it's very ahead of its time. I think even if it came out today, it would be ahead of its time. I don't know when it's time. It may not even have a time. That's how freaking great and groundbreaking this movie is. And I just give my hats off to Diodato because he really, really understands the genre. He understands why this genre is great and he understands how to make this genre work. I mean, I've seen a lot of his movies as well, movies like Body Count, The Washing Machine, movies like House on the Edge of the Park with the late great David Hess, may he rest in peace. Diodato and I really agree on what this genre is all about. And I think that Cannibal Holocaust is one of very few horror movies that it's that time capsule type of horror movie that if you told me I could save 10 horror movies for the next generation to see and I have to pick these 10, Cannibal Holocaust would absolutely be one of the 10 movies because it really has to be seen to be believed. And I think that I'm glad that you watched it again and really got the whole point of the movie because a lot of people are turned off so much by its reputation and some of the subject matter that goes on in the movie that they cannot see past that and they can't see that there is a point and there is a message there. And I think that point and that message is the reason why Cannibal Holocaust has stood the test of time. And I know that its reputation is bigger than its message. I understand that more people know this movie because of its rep, but I think the true horror fan, I think the real horror fan, guys like you and I, we get it and we get it for what it's worth. And I think it's a monumental horror movie. I think it is definitely a top 10 horror movie of all time. And I will tell you, Nate, that Grindhouse releasing 3-disc edition you're talking about, I would get it. It is amazing. I have it. I've watched the features over and over again. And I don't know. I won't lie. I actually have always kind of liked the acting in it. It's of course it's a dubbed movie. A lot of it's dubbed, so the voices don't always match with the actors' lips and stuff. But man, I will never ever forget the scene where they zoom in on Alan, who's the head film student, as he's looking on at this poor girl impaled on the pole, and they say, and he's smiling, and they say, "Watch it, Alan. We're shooting." And his smile immediately turns to this over concerned look. And that's when I saw that, I was like, that's why I love this genre. That's why I love horror movies because this guy was such a sick bastard that they had to take him out of that moment. They had to take him out of enjoying the pleasure of seeing somebody hung up like that, hung up like an animal, and that's just brilliant filmmaking and storytelling. And I think Cannibal Holocaust is one of, if not, it's definitely the greatest cannibal film of all time. I don't think anything comes close to it. And I think they've tried numerous times after, and we'll get into these movies that tried, but there's only one Cannibal Holocaust, and there's only one
Absolutely.
Ruggiero Deodato. One of the best horror movies of all time, no doubt, man.
See, very good. Also, just very good. Uh, not only speech but also analysis on it, man. That's great, dude.
Dude,
Freaking amazing.
yours was too. I think we just fucking like we gave a literal professional
Yeah,
commentary. I don't think we could have praised it any more than we did.
I think we just pushed it up to the sky as freaking Citizen Kane of Cannibal.
Dude, I was just about to say we made it sound like Citizen Kane.
Freaking Casablanca.
It's true, dude. It's true. Like I wish certain people. I know I have friends that live around here that are like, I can't get past the animal stuff. I'm like, but there's so much more that you're missing, you know. And in this whole Grindhouse releasing set is a booklet, and it has a lot of film critics' opinions on the movie. And one of the film critics that reviews the movie in the booklet is Mr. Eli Roth. And I was like, oh, I know Eli Roth loves this movie. Let me read his analysis. And all he says basically is why the animal killings and the violence and all this stuff is great, and why he missed the point. He totally does not get the point. I've read the review multiple times. Totally, I think the point went over his head. I think he sees it as show as much violence just because. Whereas Diodato actually had a message and a purpose behind all this violence and a reason. I think that's what Eli missed. I respect Eli Roth because he loves the genre so much, but man, I don't know if he gets it as much as people like you and me, or just for anybody for that matter that really gets a movie like Cannibal Holocaust. It's a surprising review to read for sure.
Definitely, man. I can't wait to get that. Actually, that's a Blu-ray we'll be picking up very soon, so that's an awesome price too. I know it's not very common now, so I was a little hesitant in the pricing of it, but I found one copy for a really awesome price, and I'm definitely going to give it a pickup as soon as I can get the money saved up to get it. But
Yeah, I picked it up for $25 at a Best Buy
I think
around
that's the price
Christmas.
it is for me too. I
Yeah,
think that's the price.
that's definitely a good price for an edition like that. I mean, they give you a shit ton of features. They give you the soundtrack and they give you the two cuts of the movie. I mean, you can't get any better than that. I've actually been looking for Cannibal Ferox, which is the movie that probably is considered the number two best cannibal movie next to Cannibal Holocaust. I've been looking for that, and it's just next to impossible to find for a good price now. It's so hard to find that
Yeah.
movie, the 3 disc edition of that movie for a good price. It's crazy money.
Yeah, a lot of those kind of movies you can find for free on YouTube. That's how I'm probably going to watch most of them. I found most of them not the best quality, but I found most of them for free on YouTube, full movies. But yeah, man, I did hear about Eli Roth's thoughts. I seen pretty much all of his interviews, and I always thought there was something a little bit off about what he was saying about it because I was like, I had seen reviews on YouTube and people were saying that yes, it is shocking, yes, it is gory, and it really is. And I think that's why when I first seen it, um, I kind of I didn't become indulged, but like that was all I seen. It was like kind of a shade put over my eyes. It was kind of like a veil, and it was like all I was seeing was like, yeah, it's a crazy, shocking movie, but I wasn't really looking at the story. And I think it's mainly because you can't prepare for a movie like Cannibal Holocaust. You really can't. It took me 3 years after finding out about to watch the film to actually sit down and watch it. That's how much I wanted to prepare and get ready for it because of all the stuff I was hearing. And it was a really hard film to digest. It was a really hard film to no pun intended in that, but it was a really hard film to sit through, and it really is. It's a film that touched on a lot of really dark stuff that you would never see, and that's the thing. Like Cannibal Holocaust will never be done again, and there's been countless movies after it. But I think the reason that this movie is so successful, at least in my eyes, and I'm pretty sure in your eyes, and all of the big fans of Cannibal Holocaust, is because you would think that the movie itself would rely on all of the gore, all of this crazy stuff, that it would not have a message, that it would just rely on shock, because most of these kind of movies do. Most of these movies like this don't have plots. They don't have storylines. It's just let's throw pointless gore and shocking moments. Let's see how much we can traumatize our audiences, and who needs a story. But I think with movies like this, and movies like Inside, and movies like that take these really intense ideas and explore them, but also having these storylines involved. Because that's one of the big reasons why I love this movie so much, is because it's not just a bunch of pointless violence and gore. I think ultimately the reason that most of the cannibal films failed afterwards, and it failed right from the beginning with Cannibal Ferox. I think that was the first movie that kind of came out after Cannibal Holocaust, and it was marketed as a, not really follow up, but another cannibal film. And I think that's why the following movies failed ultimately almost altogether. There's a couple of really good ones in there, but I think they rely too heavily on what made Cannibal Holocaust infamous and not what made Cannibal Holocaust good. I think
Exactly.
yeah, I think that they just were like, okay, I seen a bunch of gore, I seen a bunch of animal cruelty, I seen a bunch of rape, bad guys. Let's just put all this in these other movies and try to sell it, and it worked because in the Grindhouse, these movies were coming out one after another, and before you know it, everybody and their mom was making these cannibal films, and a couple of them sound very interesting because I freaking love the premise of Zombie Holocaust because like you're getting a Lucio Fulci type of zombie movie combined with a Ruggiero Deodato cannibal film. And it's like, that's a dream for me to see that because that's two things that I love. So I would love to see Zombie Holocaust. I would love to see Cannibal Apocalypse. These are all movies that were sounding pretty interesting. But there's also those movies that kind of fell into the cracks and just kind of relied on this shocking material, and I think that the movie Cannibal Holocaust is much more than that. It's that and then some. It's not just pointless stuff going on. It's I think it honestly helps the plot. I think it helps strengthen that plot because it adds that extra layer of seriousness to the film. There's never a moment in Cannibal Holocaust where you're feeling any sense of like happiness or like laughter. It's a very serious film, and I think it was intended to be that way. And I think that the reason this movie was made was kind of to, I don't know if it was because, wasn't it because of censorship or something like that? I think, wasn't Diodato tired of like news reporters focusing on violence more than other things? And he kind
Yes.
of made this movie in protest.
Yes, that was exactly why.
Yeah, so you had that, and it's like you had so much effort put into this movie. That's why it became the Cannibal Craze, is because this movie had so much foundation put into it, and nobody would do a movie like this anymore. I mean, Eli Roth, I think, is probably the only person who tried to do it nowadays as best as he could, because I think he really went out in the Amazon. He shot it the same exact way, out in the Amazon with the tribes. Um, so I definitely thought he tried to uh, get that vibe. But again, I think that I've heard about the Green Inferno, and I've heard that it's not as good as Cannibal Holocaust. I've heard it's got a lot of problems, and one of the problems is the plot line because I think he nailed everything else, but he just does not have that strong storyline supporting the film. Unlike this,
Exactly. He doesn't get the point. Just like you're saying, it's like Cannibal Ferox. I love Cannibal Ferox, or AKA the better title of the two, Make Them Die Slowly. I love the movie, but it's not in any way as good as Cannibal Holocaust because it didn't get the point either. Roberto Lindsay in 1972 came out with The Man from Deep River, and it's considered to be the very first cannibal movie. It has some of those cannibal scenes in it and whatnot. It's I'll be honest, it's kind of a boring movie. It's not the greatest. It's kind of average at best. It's like considered the very first cannibal movie. But I think when you get to Cannibal Ferox, that's when he really, I think he saw Cannibal Holocaust and was like, I got to rip this off. I got to make,
yeah,
because I started this whole thing. Let me see if I could top it. So what he did was he really tried to tone up the gore, the violence, the brutality, the animal cruelty. He tried to turn that thing, even higher. And I think the movie, it really is disturbing. I will say that. I think it has some decent acting in it. It has Giovanni Roberto Radici, who's also in City of Living Dead, who's also in House on the Edge of the Park, which is ironically enough a Diodato movie. So he's worked with both Lindsay and Diodato back to back years on different movies, which is strange, but it's kind of cool at the same time. Um,
Hmm.
there's the infamous scene of the woman impaled, not like on the pole in Cannibal Holocaust, but she's hung up through hooks through her titties, like they put hooks through both her tits, and it is one of the most brutal things you can ever see. I unfortunately cannot show that because obviously it would get flagged, copyrighted, or whatever. Um, you look that up. Just look up Cannibal Ferox hooks through boobs scene. It is absolutely one of the most disturbing images you can see, and it looks damn real to this day. It has a lot of good effects in it, man. I actually really enjoy the movie, and I actually would highly recommend you see it if you dig Cannibal Holocaust. It's definitely a movie that I think is worthy of a watch. I don't think it's in any way like as good, but I definitely think it's a good little flick. I think it's not as good as Cannibal Holocaust, but it's a very good flick on its own. And it's one of those movies. It's another grindhouse kind of movie where the title "Make Them Die Slowly." I actually have really cool. I could show these if I get them up. I think I have them on my phone of the movie premiering in New York City under the name of "Make Them Die Slowly." I just could you imagine seeing that big like make them oh yeah, here I have it. Hold on, let me just turn my camera on.
Okay.
Oh, I
I
muted
never
it.
got why they didn't just stick with that title. That's a great title.
Yeah, I know. Hold on, let's focus it. It's a little I can't shit.
I can
And you
see
could
it.
barely see it unfortunately. But yeah, that was the original movie premiere in New York City, which I thought was really, really cool. I found that a few days
Yeah,
ago. I thought that was super, super cool.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I heard about this film right after I heard about Cannibal Holocaust, and this is a movie that I seen more footage of than Cannibal Holocaust. I wanted to not know anything about Cannibal Holocaust. I wanted to go into it just knowing the infamous. I can't say it. The infamous. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I knew about the things that made it famous. You know, the infamous things. There we go. Anemone. But I don't know why I just thought of like
You get a Finding Nemo reference on a cannibal show. I love it.
totally anti Disney right now. But I heard about this movie right after, and I don't think I really wanted to see it because I heard that it was pretty much the same movie, only a lower quality. So I was pretty much like, why would I watch that? But then I looked into it a lot more and noticed that it is a very similar film, but it's not necessarily a ripoff. I think there's things in it that interest me. Like you said, that impalement scene sounds incredibly brutal, and I seen the effect, and I watched the scene, and oh my god, it's disturbing. It was really hard to watch, and there's like really interesting sequences that I thought looked pretty interesting. Like in the original movie, there was supposed to be or not in the original movie, Cannibal Holocaust. There was supposed to be a piranha scene, which got shot, but they didn't put in the film. And in this movie, Cannibal Ferox, they actually had a piranha scene, and it was pretty cool. So I was like, I like that idea. I like the idea of this tribe getting revenge on this piece of crap guy who's I think he's a cocaine dealer or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, he seemed like a really wild actor. Like from the clipside scene, the dubbing made him seem like he was a crazy lunatic actor, not actor but character.
Yeah,
And
I love
I,
Giovanni
yeah,
Lamberto Radici. He's the
yeah,
man.
it was so over the top, like in a good way. To me, it was like this guy is a coked out villain. I love this. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I definitely want to watch it. I found it on YouTube. I have it on my playlist of movies I'm gonna watch later on, and I'll give it a watch one of these days. And what's kind of shocking to me is that YouTube has been like really, closing down on any channels that have this horror content, this offensive stuff, and but yet they can have all these cannibal movies for free with no age limit. You can just access the videos and watch them for free on YouTube. I'm like, YouTube, you're completely missing this. I mean, don't take them down, but it just kind of shocked me. I was like, it's like you can't watch some movie reviews are restricted or they're demonetized, but yet this full version of like Cannibal Ferox is for free on YouTube and it's completely not even age restricted. So it's like anybody can watch it. It's crazy to me, but yeah, I want to give it a watch one of these days. I don't think it'll be as good as Cannibal Holocaust, but it sounds interesting. But I don't know why they called it Ferox. Like, what does Ferox mean? Is it a
I don't
meme?
know. I think Make Them Die Slowly is way better title.
Yeah, that sounds way more. Like I would go. Yeah, I want to go see that than Cannibal Ferox. Like, oh, it sounds like a rip off Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's actually another movie that I actually have right here. Let me turn on. I'll turn on the camera. I think you'll be able to see this one a little bit better.
All right.
This is Ursula Andress in Mountain of the Cannibal God, which is another kind of movie in the vein of a cannibal Holocaust ripoff. But I got to be honest, it's kind of a fun little ripoff. It's more of like a jungle adventure cannibal movie that ends with some cannibal shit going on. And I will be honest, man, it has a scene in the final act, like the third act of the movie, that like I freaking nearly died of laughter watching. Like it is bizarre.
Really?
It's basically Ursula Andress and Stacy Keach, and they're basically like they're in the jungle looking for somebody or something. I don't the plot kind of runs over my head a little bit in this one. And because the first like pretty much almost the entire movie is just like an adventure movie. And then they get into the forest, and you get stock footage of animal cruelty and alligators and shit. And then it ends with this huge seance. They're going to try to kill Stacy Keach and Ursula Andress and all this shit. And basically, the seance involves a man having sex with a boar.
What
I'm
the heck?
dead serious. Dude, it is so funny. I can't even begin to
Please tell me it's
explain.
simulated. Please tell me it's simulated.
Oh, it is,
Okay.
but
All right.
man, like it is the best simulated you'll like it really looks like he's having sex with this pig.
What the hell?
It's like a boar too. Dude, it's the strangest scene I think I've ever seen in a horror movie. It just comes out of nowhere. Like they take Ursula Andress and they tie her up and shit. They take her shirt off, which is also a big plus. These cannibal movies, which a huge reason why I love them, they're very sleazy. They have a
Yeah, they are.
lot of boobs, blood, and mayhem. Like they really get the formula right. Because sleaze, I think, is an essential in a slasher movie. It's the same thing with a cannibal movie. You need a little bit of sleaze in there. Um,
Right.
it helps it. It just helps it. It makes it work. It never lets it get boring. Like, oh, I'm bored. Oh, here's some titties. Okay, I'm not bored anymore. You know what I mean? It's that's part of what
They're
makes these
usually
movies
nice ones
work.
too.
Oh, damn right. Ursula Andress' titties are amazing. You don't get to see her titties in James Bond. So you know what I mean? So I mean it is what it is. Um I think when it comes to this movie though, man, I fucking like it's kind of a chore to get through the first half, but man, that third act scene is some of the craziest shit you'll ever see. There's a little midget guy that runs up to Ursula Andrews and he's trying to kill her, and she just kicks him once. He falls back, hits his head on a rock, and like for some reason, the entire back of his head just pops off like a fucking grape. Dude, it is
What the?
mad funny. Dude, you have to see this. Like it's the last like 20 minutes of the movie. You will die laughing. It is
What is
so
it? What
flippin'
is it called?
funny. Mountain of the Cannibal God.
I'm gonna actually. I'm actually gonna see if it's available on YouTube.
Dude, if it's not, I know it's dirt cheap on
It is.
Amazon. I got it for $7 on Amazon. Really, really good $7 well spent. Because I freaking that final act made me die laughing. Like it is the craziest shit you will ever see in a movie. Like I was just like, what the fuck? Like everything was cool. Like everybody was we were all exploring the jungle and stock footage, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. And then seance, I was like, ooh, shit's about to go down. And it did. Holy shit, man, this guy's fucking a boar, and then little midgets losing the back of his head. I mean,
Out of nowhere.
out of nowhere, bro. It is it's the proverbial RKO of horror movies. It is
Wow.
out of nowhere, and I
What?
love every single minute of it, man. I actually want to watch it now that I fucking
I'll
because it's
definitely check
just
it out. I found two versions though. I found it says Mountain of the Cannibal God, aka Slave of the Cannibal God. One's an hour and 42 minutes, one's 2 hours and 53 minutes. Oh my goodness.
no way. What?
It's a 2 hour and 53 minute cut of Mountain of the Cannibal God.
Yeah,
What the heck?
mine's 103 minutes, so that would be an hour and 43.
Okay, I'll
Um,
get that version.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, 3 hours. I wonder if there's more of the seance scene because that would be worth it if
Oh
they
god.
shot another hour of footage. Man, that shit's
X-rated cut.
crazy, man. Like,
Can
I
you
would
imagine
love.
that in promotion? Witness the famous boar scene.
Could you imagine that, like showing that to like a test audience? Like the first hour is totally like a 5-year-old kid could watch it. It's so like it's like adventurous, yada yada yada, and then fucking out of
Out of
nowhere, I
nowhere.
was just like, what the hell's going on? I remember I just had this on one night. I bought it on Amazon Prime, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna give this a watch, man. This looks fucking awesome. And I was kind of bored. I was like, this is meh. And then at the end, at like that last 20 minutes, I was like, yo, classic Cannibal movie. It was all for those two scenes, man, because it just like it's totally just the shit I enjoy, just batshit bumblefuck kind of crazy out of left field stuff. And that's why I really love movies like Cannibal Ferox or Make Them Die Slowly. And Mountain of the Cannibal God also goes under the title of Prisoner of the Cannibal God, as what'd you say, Slave of the Cannibal God?
Yeah.
Yeah, that title makes no sense to me because there really is no slave. They tie up or this on the cover, this happens in the last 10 minutes of the movie. Like she's not a prisoner at all. Like throughout the entire movie, she's perfectly fine. Um, but man, it is you gotta see it because
I definitely will check it out. I
it's
got it
mad
online.
funny, man. Like you will die. Like you should actually put like a camera in the room with you just to film your reactions. Because I wish somebody had filmed mine. Because I had no idea any of this shit was gonna happen. Like I was just sitting there watching it, and then all of a sudden this man's having banging a boar. I was like, what the fuck? Like what? Like where did this come from? And for no reason,
I
dude. It's
just
awesome.
imagine it, bro. That'd be so crazy. Just
Dude,
so
it
weird.
was. It genuinely was. Like I freaking dig it. But yeah, there are other Italian cannibal films that are hit and miss, like you said. There are some good, there are some bad. And it's funny to me that the Americans never really tried to do that Italian style. They did a lot of movies like Parents, like Blood Feast, movies like that. That's like the closest we ever got to cannibal movies in
Yeah.
the US. And
Did
I
you
don't know
ever?
how you feel or if you've even seen those movies, but I don't know. I think they're hit and miss too as well.
Yeah, I haven't really seen too many of those movies. I do know about Blood Feast only because I did hear that it was kind of the first movie to have gore in it. And I know that the same director is just he's pretty much the founder of gore. That's what everybody knows him for. And it also I heard about the Wizard of Gore, so I heard about that too. Don't know if it's a great movie or not, but I've heard about it. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, did you know there's a Cannibal Holocaust too? Supposedly, there's a
Yeah, it's
part
it's
two.
it's like kind of unofficial Cannibal Holocaust Part 2. It's nothing like the first one. I've seen bits and pieces. It kind of was unimpressive to be honest with you.
Yeah, I just found it very. It's like that's a very common thing in Italian horror films is that when you get films like Zombie, which is a great movie, and then overseas it was called Zombie 2. So it's really confusing how when I had first seen Zombie, I'm like, wait a minute, so why is it called Zombie 2 overseas? This is the first movie. And then I found the whole Dawn of the Dead thing, and I was like, well, that's crazy. And I guess that happened a lot back in the day. Like when The Exorcist came out, they had a movie for The Exorcist. I'm pretty sure that most of those supernatural horror films and stuff like that, when they came out in America, there was an Italian version of it somewhere. So I always found that very interesting. And I remember when I first heard about that, somebody, I think it was a comment I read, somebody was like, "Did you guys know there was a cannibal holocaust too?" I'm like, I have never heard of this. I want to check this out. I've never heard of this. And I checked out like 25 minutes of it, and I'm like, this isn't Cannibal Holocaust. Like, it's cannibals, but it's not. It's just not that kind of movie.
Yeah,
It
it's
really
it's
isn't.
not it's in no way, shape, or form anything to really do. It's just it's like unofficially at Cannibal Holocaust Part Two, but it really has nothing in that vein to do. But I would quickly just I'd like to give a shout out. My buddy Henry is watching us right now, and he has us on his TV. I think that's really funny.
Oh
He sent me
no.
a yeah, he sent me a picture. I'm too lazy to keep my camera on because I'm kind of in a laying position and I'm kind of cozy. I was sitting up before, but I was like I'm mad cozy just talking about horror films right now, so that's why I had the camera off. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to say shout out to Henry. Thank you for supporting Nate and I talking about the cannibal Italian giallo cinema, all this good shit, and current horror movies and stuff like that. I really appreciate the support, man. Much respect to you. Thank you.
Yeah, totally, man. Thanks for watching, dude. Hope you enjoyed the stream so far, man. We're having a lot of fun. And if you want to watch more streams, man, I mean, I'm pretty sure John will either let you know or you can find out maybe through notification or something like that when we do our next stream. But yeah, these are really fun to do. But thanks for watching, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you're interested, I did a podcast. It lasted about 40 episodes. Henry, if you're listening, I could send you a link to those as well. That was not with Nate here. It was with my buddy
They're very
Don.
good.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate it. And me and Nate have done a lot of good streams too. We did a Wes Craven retrospective. Last stream was a lot of fun too. What the hell did we talk about in the last stream?
I think we talk about a little bit of everything, honestly.
That's usually all
But
these
most of our
streams. Like we
streams
start
are.
we start with one topic in mind and literally just go on into the abyss. It's like we don't fucking there's no wall of
There's no limit.
boundaries. Yeah, that's what's great about it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that there's no wall there. But
We discussed Halloween. It was a discussion with Halloween and Friday the 13th. It was Halloween 3 and part 5 of Friday the 13th.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah. We discussed those two, the underrated sequels for sure. That was
Yeah.
that was a fun show. Um, do you have anything else you want to talk about on this stream, or do you want to get into Sleepaway Camp Part Two or any other cannibal films you want to talk about?
Um, Not really. There is one title though that I did want to ask you about, and I wanted to see if you just one more, and then we can move on to the Sleepaway Camp announcement that you was wanting to talk about. But I was wondering, have you ever heard of a cannibal film called Massacre at Dinosaur Valley?
I have heard of it. I have never seen it, unfortunately.
I started watching it a long time ago, and I was thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, now they're combining dinosaurs with cannibal movies? I'm like, this was the greatest thing back in the day. Why wasn't I born during this? Like, it was such an awesome concept. I mean, you have freaking zombie holocaust, and I don't know, have you seen that movie, Zombie Holocaust?
I've seen Zombie Holocaust, yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, man, first we had zombies, now we got freaking dinosaurs, but it really doesn't have dinosaurs in it at all, and it kind of turned me off. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch this now. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I can't say I blame you. There's a lot of like Cannibal. There's a movie called Cannibal Apocalypse that I think you mentioned before, which is it's not a bad movie, but it's just it's so ridiculous. Like the plot is so fucking ridiculous, where you're just like what am I even watching?
Yeah.
There's a movie that not many talk about, and it's not really a cannibal movie. It's more has a cannibal title. It's called Cannibal Man. It's actually one of the Video Nasties, one of the 72 films banned by the United Kingdom in 1981. It's one of it's actually a really good flick. It's basically about this. It's a Mexican horror film, and it's basically this guy who he's living in this like apartment, this shitty apartment, and he's seeing this woman, and he accidentally kills a person. It's just totally an accident, and then pretty much the rest of the movie, it's him kind of trying to cover up the first murder that he made by he keeps murdering these people, and eventually, delves into cannibalism. And it's kind of it's a very interesting
Hmm.
little movie. I totally recommend. And also, with that being said, I know if people want to see new cannibal film, I think I don't know if you've seen it yet, Nate, but I actually no, I think you did. You reviewed it, I believe. Raw from
Yeah.
just last year. That's a really good newer cannibal film, in
Oh
my
yeah.
opinion. I
It
don't
was
know.
very good.
Yeah, we should talk about it. Because it was one of those movies that I just absolutely love. For people who have not seen it, the movie Raw is about this girl, and she's going to veterinarian school, and it's her first year of college or whatever, and she's a vegetarian, and she wants to join this fraternity. She's really interested in joining a fraternity. Her parents went to this school. Her sister went to is actually at the school currently, and she's dying to join a fraternity. So she basically goes, and they say, "Oh, you can join the fraternity, but you've got to eat raw meat." That's the initiation to get into the club, or the fraternity, I should say. And she does, and basically slowly but surely becomes a cannibal. And she learns that her sister is a cannibal. And they go to lengths of running out in the middle of traffic, causing car crashes, and eating the remains of the people that
Yeah,
crashed
it's
and died in
crazy.
the cars. I mean, that's some crazy shit, man. But man, did I enjoy the hell out of it. It's a movie that had awesome score, a really good aesthetic to it, and I think it's a movie that preached to more along the lines of the horrors of fitting in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
everybody feels like, oh, I want to fit in here, I want to fit in there, blah blah blah. It's a movie that really, I think, tackled that, because what would you do to fit in? What would
yeah.
you do to
Like
get
how
into
far
your
would you go to fit in and be cool?
exactly? And then it basically it's a tailspin down this deep dark path that this little veterinarian vegetarian girl you never thought would go down at the beginning of the movie. And that's hard done right, man. I really really enjoyed Raw. But man, what were your thoughts about Raw?
Oh, dude, I actually, I remember when you told me about it, it was a film that interested me because of the plot line. Because I've always been interested in films that kind of talk about subjects like that. Talk about not only veganism but also the consumption of meat. There's also a bunch of symbolism in the film about that, about veganism, about um, certain opinions on it and whatnot. Uh, but I thought it was a very well made movie. I felt that it was paced very well. It didn't show too much. Like it was gory, but it wasn't one of those over the top gory movies. It just showed enough to where you've seen the blood, you've seen the gore, you've seen the shocking moments. And I think that's what also made it great is that it had a lot of great moments in it. And it had a lot of things that you didn't really expect, you know? And I think it was just a very interesting study on this one character who, starts out completely normal, but it's just this initiation process, and she starts eating raw meat, and it's kind of like The Fly. You're seeing this deterioration of this character that you really care about, and you're kind of wondering like, why is she doing this? What caused her to do this? And then her sister starts doing it. Her sister ends up going too far, and I won't spoil it too much. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but um, I will say that the ending is very shocking because I was like, oh man, it was like one of those things like, so that's why, and it was crazy.
Really
But
good twist ending.
yeah,
Really good.
it was totally out of nowhere, and I think
Exactly.
it's a very subtle film. It's very much an uncomfortable, like you feel like something's wrong, and then you feel this slow build up of just this uneasiness, and there's something wrong here. Something bad is going to happen. And then when she starts acting really strange, you really just don't know what's going on to the very end of the film. And I think that's when it really hits you in the gut. And it's like, oh man, what a crazy twist,
Yeah, it's total nonstop dread, and I think that's something that a lot of horror movies miss now. I know my only thing with the movie was that I remember it was really heavily promoted that it was a big gross out movie and that a lot of people left the theater, the initial screenings throwing up, and one woman fainted and they had to bring an ambulance to the theater and shit like that. Like it was one of those movies that was marketed like it was a big gore fest, and it's really not what it is. I mean,
Yeah, I
granted,
was gonna say
there's
maybe I'm a
gore in
sick
it.
person, but it really was not that bad.
Exactly, yeah. Like okay, if you show it to a normal person that's never watched a horror movie, I'm sure they might really get sickened by it. But it's not like a big gross out kind of horror movie like it was built. And I feel like a lot of people thought it was going to be that and were let down. Like I know Piz Owl was let down by that. I know a lot of people that saw it were very upset that it wasn't more extreme. But man, I got to be honest. I think again, it's just one of those movies that people kind of miss the point of. It's more
Yeah,
about the horror of fitting in and the horror of how far would you go to fit in, and that's why the movie really works. And I think again, it's one of those things. It kind of flies over certain people's heads, but I think us having the eye we do and being the fans we are of the genre, we get that that's the horrific part. And granted, this other stuff helps. I mean, running out in the middle of fucking traffic to
right.
get motherfuckers to eat is a little fucking extreme, you know. But damn, I mean, it's well done, and I think it's well acted. And I actually had the chance to see this movie's premiere in New York City, and I didn't go. I actually went to a SmackDown house show earlier that day at
Oh wow.
Madison Square Garden, and I was like, we were gonna go. Me and my friend Connor were gonna go to the premiere of this movie, and I think we both decided against it because it was like really far from Madison Square Garden, and we would have had to have walked it. And I believe it was somewhere in January. And we were like, dude, we're not walking 50 blocks in January. We'll freeze, man. So
Right.
unfortunately, we did not get to go to the premiere of this, which it would have been really cool to see this in the theater with a crowd. But for anybody with Netflix streaming, it is on Netflix streaming. And
That's
I
what
I
I'm seeing.
totally recommend it. I think it's totally worth a watch. Really good modern cannibal film for sure.
Yeah. I'd say probably the most powerful scene, and I'm not going to give it away, but John, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's the finger scene.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
crazy. That was insane.
That was some corn on the cob shit, man.
No need for more words.
No need for more words. That was some scary shit. I was like,
It was.
what the hell am I watching right now?
Yeah,
But
I was just
damn,
kind of like, oh
damn, do
what?
I enjoy it.
Yeah, but it definitely does build that tension. From that moment on, that tension just goes skyrocketing, and it's like you're wondering how bad it's gonna get. Kind of one of those movies.
Yeah, total snowball effect, and it has I think again really good music. I love whoever composed the score and the music in the movie. I think it's just all really well
Yeah,
placed and well done. I think it's a pretty underrated little flick.
and the cinematography was great too.
Absolutely. I think the entire thing, I believe, was directed by a woman. I don't remember. I don't remember her name, but she did a really good job, and I liked watching her interviews, and she was saying how she was a big Texas Chainsaw fan. So I was like, okay, I could totally see some of that influence in here for
Mhm.
sure. I think she really got the genre, and I think she made a really good flick.
Well, I mean that, and I think she tackled a very interesting subject because veganism is as big now than it has ever been before,
Definitely.
and they tackled it at just such the perfect time at this peak of when most of the population, not all of it, but a good portion of it is vegan, and kind of this is the horror movie that horror. It's kind of like how Jaws was to people who went to the beach, and like how Cabin Fever was to people who went out in cabins and stuff. It's kind of like one of those movies. It's the Jaws for vegans.
That's actually a really good. You should tell that to a bunch of vegan people and they just
Yeah,
scare them away from it.
like she did what? Like yeah, watch it. You'll get terrified.
Yeah, at the beginning she's a vegetarian. By the end, she's something else. Like I'll say that. I don't want to ruin it for
Yeah,
anybody that has not seen it, but man, it is
crazy.
some powerful shit. I really enjoyed Raw.
Yeah, another movie that's kind of like that though that I was really wanting to see was a movie called Contracted, which sounded like a pretty interesting concept because it's taking such a devastating idea and making it into a horror film. I thought it was such an intense thing to tackle.
Yeah, I actually I've not seen Contracted either, so I would love to give that a watch. I've heard only good things, and I'm certainly interested in giving that one a watch somewhere down the road for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. Um. Oh yeah, what was you wanting to announce about Sleepaway Camp 2?
Well, I wanted to just say it is past midnight, so it is now official. It is today, August 26th. It is the 30th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Yes, this is another top 10 along lines of Cannibal Holocaust. This is Sleepaway Camp 2 on Happy Campers, starring the great Pamela Springsteen and Renee Estevez. And man, when I again, this is another movie where when I think about the genre and why I love the genre, this is definitely one of the movies that comes to mind. And I just wanted to say on a quick note, just celebrate the 30th anniversary of this movie. I actually have the poster. I'm looking at it right now. It's on the side of my wall. I freaking love Sleepaway Camp Part Two. It's just everything a slasher movie should be.
You'll be praising that poster tonight.
Dude,
Hail
absolutely.
Sleepaway
Oh, my friend Henry goes, "Happy birthday, Sleepaway Camp 2." Happy 30th, baby. Dude, I'll get a cake and fucking 30 candles and shit. Um, but yeah, man, I'll be honest, I freaking really love this movie because it's if in case you don't know, well, actually you had never seen it, so I can give a little bit of insight on it. I definitely won't ruin anything for you, Nate. But it's basically about this camp. It's Camp New Horizons, and actually no, it's Camp Rolling Hills. That's it. It's Camp Rolling Hills.
Oh, okay.
And there's this girl named Angela, and she's like the head counselor there, and basically she's a killer. She's a serial killer, and one by one she's killing these girls at the camp and guys at the camp off if they break a moral law. So she's super if you curse,
Hmm.
if you drink, if you smoke, if you do drugs, if you talk back at her, if you break any kind of moral law, she actually comes and kills you. And she's one of, if not my favorite slashers of all time, just because of all the one-liners she has in this movie. She's so damn entertaining and funny. I mean, she really just hits the ball out of the park and runs, catch the balls herself, kind of thing. She's just so good in this movie, man. So funny, so creepy, uh, and I love that this movie is so self-aware. It's a really self-aware horror movie, and it really plays on the tropes of the slasher genre and all these things way before Scream did, and way before movies like Urban Legend and neo slashers did. It's a movie that knows what it was. It had fun. It had a killer 80s rock and roll soundtrack. And it's just a lot of fun, man. I think
Wow.
it's one of those movies that'll go over a lot of people's heads. They kind of just say, "Oh, well, it's cheap trash." But I don't know. I guess one man's trash is another man's treasure, and in my case, it's a treasure. I actually have the movie on Blu-ray, and I'll probably be giving it a watch sometime later today. Obviously, not tonight, but tomorrow for sure. I'm gonna give Sleepaway Camp Part 2 a 30th anniversary viewing, and I'm stoked to say that. So happy birthday to Sleepaway Camp Part 2 on Happy Campers. I'm with you, Henry. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Frosty the Snowman.
Never again. Sorry about that.
That's okay. My dad always says that to me. When if it's my birthday, he talks as Frosty the Snowman all day. He'll be like, "Happy birthday." And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man, it wasn't funny when I was 6. Like, why do you think it's funny now?
Just stop. Stop.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta humor the old folks. You gotta humor the parents.
Right, man. Right. Um, but I don't know. I was probably gonna pick up at least the first three movies on Blu-ray because they actually have decent pricing on them.
What are
Like
the
the first,
prices?
the most I've seen for the sequels is about $18.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I paid 21 when they came out. The day they came out, I got them both.
Oh wow, that's awesome, bro. I mean, that's a good deal too. That's not that bad. The first movie though, I think is a little bit more pricey. I think that's when you start getting into like the $25 range, maybe, or maybe $20 range. That's always the first movie. It's a little bit more higher price than the sequels. I'm like, oh, it's a ranking system.
Yeah. A fun fact about Sleepaway Camp Part 2, it actually is the favorite horror movie of a certain wrestler. I'll give you a couple guesses if you want to guess which wrestler hails it as his favorite horror movie ever.
All right, all right, all right. So, can I have any hints? Like what
He
era?
he is still currently wrestling. He's been around since the late 90s, and he's one of my favorites as well.
Oh, geez, still wrestling. From the '90s. Who the freak? I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but The Undertaker.
It is not The Undertaker. I'll give
Okay.
you one more guess.
Who else is in there? Who else? Gold Dust.
It is not Goldust. It is actually Y2J, Chris Jericho's favorite horror movie of all time. You can look up on IMDb and trivia in the trivia section. It actually states it's Chris Jericho's favorite horror movie ever.
Wow,
And
that's
I
an
was like,
yeah.
what a small world. One of my favorite wrestlers is also, and one of my favorite horror movies. We have that in common. I actually tweeted to him about it. I think I still have the tweet. Let
That's
me
awesome.
see. Let me see if I still have the tweet because he retweeted it and it got a bunch of likes and retweets and stuff. Because I know he's a yeah, I got it. Okay, hold on. I'm getting it up right now.
Okay,
I'll throw on my camera. Hopefully you guys can see this one. Can you see that at all or no?
it's a little blurry.
A little blurry. Hold it closer maybe. Still a little blurry.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll just read it. Fuck it. I said, at I am Jericho, it was so cool to hear you're such a big fan of Sleepaway Camp 2. Long live Pamela Springsteen. Got 57 favorites and 7 retweets.
Wow, that's so cool, bro.
Yeah, dude, I know. As I'm a huge Jericho holic, so it was really cool to hear he's such a big fan because I'm definitely one of the mutual fan. I did a review for 2 and 3 on my channel. I did them in the same video, and man, I love horror movies like that. You got to see them. It definitely see the entire trilogy because it's a really good trilogy, man. Like it's all 3 movies in my opinion hold up really really well.
Would you recommend me to stay away from the fourth one?
Dude, I wouldn't recommend the 4th movie to my worst enemy. That's how bad
Ooh.
that movie is. This is the plot of Sleepaway Camp 4 or aka Return to Sleepaway Camp. There's this fat fuck at this camp and he's getting bullied for about 90% of the movie. Then the last 10% of the movie, people start dying off one by one and you're supposed to be guessing who you think is the killer. And it's, dude, it is so poorly made, man. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. Definitely in my bottom 10. Like it's on Creepshow level, Creepshow 3 level bad.
Ooh.
Like that's how bad it is. Like it's oh dude, and by the way, I gotta ask you if you've seen this. Have you ever seen American Psycho 2?
No, but I have seen the first one, but I did hear about the second
Dude, American Psycho 1 is one of my favorites. I love
one.
that
Great.
movie. I recently, about a month ago, watched American Psycho 2, and it has none other than Mila fucking Kunis. Yes, Mila Kunis from That 70 Show and Meg from Family Guy as the
Wow.
lead. As the lead. And this is the first 5 minutes of the movie. You ready for this shit? She's a 6-year-old girl, right? Sitting at the table, and it's this awful narration of Mila Kunis talking over the scene and they have her kill off the Patrick Bateman character, who is not played by fucking
What?
Christian Bale. It's played by a different guy. This is the first 5 minutes of the movie. They kill off Patrick Bateman.
What a slap in the face.
Dude, it's a huge slap in the face, and it's of all fucking people, it's 6-year-old Mila Kunis, and then
Right.
and then it's fast forward years later, and it's Mila Kunis at a college, and William Shatner is her fucking professor,
What the
and she's
hell?
trying she's trying if she wins the role to be his assistant, she will become like police chief in a few years. and the plot of the movie is her killing off the kids in her class so she becomes his assistant. It's
Bro,
so
no,
bad, man. It's so bad.
no.
Dude, she strangles a dude to death with a fucking condom.
What the? No.
Dude, I know it's so fucking bad, man. I was just like, what the fuck is this shit? Like you think she's gonna fuck this guy, and then she's like, do you have protection? And he's like, yeah, yeah. And she's like, okay, get on the bed. And for some reason, this motherfucker gets on the bed belly first to put
What
on a
the?
condom. What the fuck?
What
Who the
the?
fuck gets on a bed belly first, put on a condom? And then she strangles him to death with the fucking thing.
Ribbed for the pleasure, I guess.
I'm not making this up, man. I swear. I just seen it a few months ago. It was so bad. Like Mila Kunis was terrible in it, and to be honest, I thought the entire movie was bad. William Shatner, I don't know what he was on to agree to do a movie like this, but man, it's bad.
It
It's
completely
absolutely
missed
one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen.
it completely missed the point of American Psycho.
Exactly, it missed the point because American Psycho is one of the best horror movies of this century. I mean, Christian Bale is phenomenal in the movie, and the movie really got the genre, really understood what it was going for.
Yeah.
Just great stuff. This movie, total American Psycho 2, is total cash grab, total. Let's just throw Mila Kunis on the cover because she's hot. Maybe people will buy it. And man, oh, and it's by the way, it's directed by Morgan Freeman. Not that Morgan Freeman, but the
Oh,
guy's the guy's name is Morgan Freeman, which is really funny.
that's the best part of the movie.
Dude, when I was watching this really late one night, and I was like, Morgan Freeman, and I immediately went to IMDb. I was like, it's not that Morgan Freeman, is it? And I was glad to see that it wasn't, because that would just be the icing on the fucking cake if Morgan Freeman was the director. You imagine his narrations? I killed Patrick Bateman, and I hired Mila Kunis to kill William Shatner's fat ass.
Oh my gosh. So
Dude,
crazy.
it's fucking totally one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It like I've seen actually a lot of like bad sequels that have been out for years this summer. For some reason, I was like, I'm gonna just trek all the bad ones, and of course, that is includes Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which I know
Oh,
you're the biggest fan of. Dude,
why?
we should talk. Dude, I feel like that would be a perfect closing segment to this. Let's talk about that movie because I've never talked about it with you in detail. I would love to talk about it with you.
Oh God, do we really have to go there?
Dude, we have to go there. I'm stoked to go there.
There goes preheat.
Yep. Right out the fucking window.
So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation.
Yes.
Why'd they even make this movie? Let's be honest. I mean, at least parts 2 and 3 had reasons. Like, part 4 had no reason at all, dude. Like, seriously, and freaking Renee Zellweger tells Leatherface to sit down and shut up, and he does it! Transvestite does it! Oh my god! Oh, dude, it's just, oh. Woo.
Well, I think the whole reason, the whole story and background as to why this movie was made is because Kim Henkel did not like part 2 or part 3. And Kim, if you guys don't know who Kim Henkel was, he actually helped write the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the screenplay for it. He was half of the writing team along with Mr. Hooper. So he was upset with 2 and 3, and he said, "Screw it, I'm gonna make my own Chainsaw sequel. I'm gonna make a direct sequel of the original." And in the opening narration, he actually shits on part 2 and 3. He says something along the lines of, two
Minor.
two minor events have happened that are seemingly related. So he right off the bat he shits on the past two movies, which I know that Chainsaw 2 is a huge cult movie. I mean, I know motherfuckers that go all out for that movie. I've
Yeah.
never been the biggest fan. I'll be honest. I think it's not the greatest, to be honest. And I please no hate for that. I know a lot of people hate that I don't like that movie, but I mean it's just my opinion. Honesty is the best policy. Um, but I like part 3 a little bit better. I've always liked part 3 a little bit better.
Oh,
Uh,
part 3 is awesome, dude.
yeah, I love Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. I think it's a really good movie, especially that I got to see it on the big screen 35 millimeter in Huntington a few weeks ago. It was really cool to see that movie with a crowd because I really enjoy it. Ken Foree, Kate Hodge, Viggo
Art
Mortensen.
Magaloff.
Yeah, yeah, really good little movie. I really enjoy Part 3. But then you get to this movie, which is just the most bizarre.
Wait,
What is the
mister, you're scaring me. What should I do? What can I do?
dude, some of the shit they have Matthew McConaughey do in this movie is bizarre.
It really is.
Like,
I think that's the best part of the movie, man. Matthew
it,
McConaughey is the best thing in this freaking movie.
dude,
He is.
he is phenomenal. I'll be honest, he's the best thing since the Hitchhiker from Part 1.
Yeah,
The
he is that
character.
gem. Him and Renee Zellweger are those ruby diamonds hidden in this big old ball of crap that you got to dig through and dig through. But then when you find the performances, it's like, dude, Matthew McConaughey did great in the movie, dude. He was amazing in the movie. I will say that, and I'm not really the biggest fan of the movie at all. But I thought he played Psycho to the T.
Dude, I agree, and I think he did a great job. I almost wish his performance was in another movie
Yeah, yeah,
because he's so good and like it's just bizarre. So basically, the I'll just give a rundown of this retarded plot.
okay, man.
Basically, Renee Zellweger and her date are for some reason in the backseat of a car, even though she's supposed to be like the virgin final girl. I guess she's about
Right.
to. I guess she's about to fuck this guy in the backseat of a car. That's like the opening of this movie. And this random couple gets in that like the guy was cheating on the chick, and the chick is hot, but man, she's a horrendous actress.
Awful. She
What's her
is
Julie
awful.
Newmar? Yeah, she's horrendous actress, but I definitely understand why she was cast because she was definitely good looking.
Yeah, she was. She couldn't act with anything though.
Yeah, at least they got half right. I mean, at least it wasn't ugly as sin. Like that's to me the biggest no you can do in a slasher movie is draft ugly women or cast
Ugh.
ugly women. Like there's no positive there because this is like you're not if they can't act, at least you'd be interested in their titties or their boobs or their looks. But if they're ugly and they can't act, I mean, you just change the channel. I mean, that's the fact. It's a cold hard fact of horror movies. But yeah, so they're driving and they like kind of run into another car and are stranded in the road or whatever. And then three of them decide to dip, and then the other two stay. And Matthew McConaughey rolls up in a tow truck that has on the side of it Illuminati written on the side of the truck. The Illuminati, right? So Matthew McConaughey kills these
Ugh.
motherfuckers, and then the people that leave, Renee Zellweger and the couple, they go to this random lady who says, "Oh, we're gonna get you help or whatever." And then you realize that she's actually with Matthew McConaughey and Leatherface and yada yada yada, and pretty much all insanity ensues. It's pretty much pretty fucking played out to be honest. But man, the
Awful.
the final act of this movie, like the dinner scene. Dude, it has to be seen to be believed. Like, I actually, the first time I watched this, I rewound the scene after it was over because I could not believe what I just watched. It was just so bizarre, man. Like what were your initial feelings on this scene? Because it is so fucking strange. It starts off like the dinner scene from the original, and then it goes into the Illuminati and this gangster guy and some fucking alien shit. And man, I don't know what the fuck happened, man. like
I was just so blown away. I'm like, dude, like what the freak was this? I think wasn't it Kim Hinkle? Did he write this movie as well?
he did, yeah. He wrote, direct. He was the whole show.
Dude, I just had no freaking clue what Kim Hinkle was going for. I think that's the thing, man. It's like Kim Hinkle had no freaking clear vision. And you know what? I'm not trying to disrespect the guy because I think he's a nice dude. I've seen interviews. He seems like a nice person. But man, he missed he missed this movie so much. He freaking messed this movie up to the point to where, as a Chainsaw Massacre fan, I am extremely offended this is in the series. This is the only movie in the series that I don't like. And that's coming from a guy who likes Chainsaw 3D. That's coming from a guy who likes Leatherface. I like those movies. They're not terrible in my opinion. And that's coming from me. I can stoop low when it comes to this series. I like part 3. People hate part 3. I like part 3. I love the beginning. I love the remake. I can stoop low. But when you go this low, freaking taking the ultimate hardest limbo level ever low. Freaking what? I was just so blown away. And to talk about the dinner scene real quick, I thought what was leading up to it was great. Like Matthew McConaughey squashing the girl's head, and you hear it.
And
Don't
setting her on fire.
yeah, Sarah. It was really intense performance. And then out of nowhere, this guy shows up, and it's
It's my
like, who
favorite
are
part.
you? And then he's like, freaking like acting like he's Matthew McConaughey's boss, and he's like, horror. You must show horror. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Where did you come from? You just walked off a different set. Or you're in the wrong freaking movie.
Dude, this fucking guy rolls up in a fucking in a
Has
like a
rings and stuff,
gangster.
piercings. Like, what
Yes,
the freak was this?
he rolls up in like a gangster limo and gets out like one of the Men in Black or something. He strolls
Yeah,
on in like the Godfather and is
freaking
like,
FBI type looking thing.
yeah, Renee Zellweger runs into his arms, he's crying, and he's like, "What is going on here?" He goes, "You don't understand horror, and the people want their horror this way." And then he opens his shirt, and he has like,
Tribal. I don't even know if it's tribal, but weird tattoos and weird piercings. Freaking
yeah,
ring piercings on his nipples and stuff. Like, what the
and then he decides to lick Renee Zellweger's face for
elixir?
no fucking reason, and without saying a word, just dips. And the funniest part about the entire scene is Matthew McConaughey's face. When he comes in, like Matthew McConaughey looks at this guy like he is afraid of him, like crazy afraid of him.
Yeah,
And man, it's
And then
what?
Matthew McConaughey just starts cutting himself. No reason. Just starts cutting himself. I'm like, what the freak? Like, that's the thing. I think literally Kim Henkel's approach to this film was okay, let's make it insane. You know, because these people are insane, let's make the movie feel like it's insane. Yeah, I get it. You're trying to make a crazy movie. I've seen Chainsaw Massacre movies that do that whole wacko, bizarre, crazy thing. The first movie did it, the second movie did it, freaking third movie tried to do it. They did it the right way. You don't dress Leatherface up in drag and give him lipstick. You freaking do not cross that line. And then you have the dinner scene, which is like a bunch of random corpses sit around the table that they never explain.
And then
It's,
one of them gets up out of
yeah,
fucking nowhere, just takes
freaking
a
just
slice
gets
of
up,
pizza.
freaking gets out, walks out of the freaking scene.
Dude, I when I first saw that, I just bawled laughing. I was like, "What the fuck? Like, what is going on? Like, this guy just got out of nowhere. He just like you thought he was dead, and he just gets up and just
Yeah,
looks and just dips out of the
well, he's sitting there like so still, and he's not even doing anything, and he just gets up and walks away. Like, what the freak are you? God,
room."
it was
Dude, man,
so
it's
weird.
so funny.
Freaking remember. Okay, so the one scene that got me was when they hit this car, and this kid gets out. He's like, "I'm all right, I'm all right," and he falls down and passes out. And this freaking the annoying lady gets out of the car. She's like, "Is he dead? Did he die?" Like, I'm like, where's the hesitation? Where's the? She's not scared. She's just like, "Oh, is he dead? Did he die?" I'm like, and then like this lady that they find just flashes on like traffic coming by, like out of nowhere, and it's like it's I think like I said, if they were just trying to go for this crazy, insane, twisted story that it ended up backfiring. You know, if you're gonna have this kind of movie, you gotta balance it. You can't just freaking make sense of it, make it be like, oh, okay, so it's these people go out in the woods, blase blase. First of all, it doesn't even look like it's in Texas. There's nothing that screams Texas at all about it. This could have been shot in freaking Colorado, anywhere you freaking want to shoot this movie is where it was shot. I don't even know if it was shot in Texas. I don't even think it looks like Texas personally. But I think like the thing with this movie is that it could have been good. and it really could have been because that original look for Leatherface, the camo jacket and the yellow apron, and the original mask they had for him, I liked that look. That was an interesting look. It was just they ruined it when they made Leatherface scream like a little girl. Like he screams in this entire movie, and it's like, why is he screaming? Why is he scared? Like he's they completely just freaking disrespect and like dismember this character. And I remember I got this like poster. It wasn't a poster, it was like a DVD guide, and on the back of it it showed a poster. And it was a weird looking poster. It was all done in weird technicolor type stuff. And right in the middle of the poster is a random can of gasoline. Because it's, oh yeah, because that moment in the movie where he burned her back. I'm like, no, it's symbolism for me to pour gasoline on this movie and light it on fire. Like it freaking, it just, I don't know. I go into fanboy mode to talk about this movie because the series was already going great. You know, you had the first movie, which I'm a really big fan of. It's my favorite horror film of all time. Second movie, one of my favorite sequels. Third movie, one of my favorite sequels. And then we get to this one, and it makes you mad from frame one because, like you said, it completely disrespects the previous two films, which I love. And it's like remember that moment where literally Renee Zellweger is locked in this trunk of the car, and they stop at this burger joint or whatever, and the lady literally gets out, walks and opens the trunk. There's cops right behind her, and where she asks Renee Zellweger, she's like, "Well, if you don't scream, I'll open a little hole." And she's like, "Oh, okay, you can do that." Like she's not scared or anything like that. She's just talking like she just, "Oh, okay, make a little hole for me so I can breathe," you know. It's okay. It's like there's certain moments in the movie where the characters just like they don't act like how a rational person would react in a situation like that. First of all, Renee Zellweger just out of nowhere gets up and starts commanding people around. I'm just like, and it was a good moment. It really was. She gets one, slaps Matthew McConaughey in the face. She's like, "Don't you ever touch me." I'm like, that's a great moment, especially when he looks back at her and he realizes she's fighting back. But like, they have her escape for a million times, and she's always getting captured. And I don't know. I'm rambling again. I gotta shut up. I can't. I gotta shut up. I'm just gonna keep on rambling on. I don't shut up. But God, I just hate this movie so much.
Dude,
Dude,
I
I
can't
can't
blame you at
blame you at
all.
all.
It's a
It's a
horrendous
horrendous.
movie, but man, I'll be honest, like the first time I seen it, even to this day, I do enjoy it on a so bad it's hilarious level. Like I do get enjoyment out of it. And I know people are like, dude, it's just so bad it's bad. And dude, I'm not saying it is good, it's not, but man, like there's some things in this movie that I just fucking laugh at. Like that scene where that guy comes in out of nowhere and it's just like, yo, you don't understand horror. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like this movie does not understand
Yeah,
horror.
it
Like,
doesn't even understand what it's trying to be.
yeah, and I don't know if that was King Hengel's point, like him saying that this is why the original worked and this is why this movie's gonna work. Because if that's what he was going for, he swung and
Failed.
fucking missed. Um, I don't know. I can't believe that this movie is getting a special edition release from Scream Factory.
Oh
That's crazy to me. And already there's controversy with it, not only because of the price, which I think I've talked to you about.
yeah, it's
The
ridiculous.
original price on that motherfucker was $32 for this movie.
Ridiculous.
This movie is like a free rental type of status.
Yeah,
If you drop $5 on this movie, it's too much.
I paid $2 for my DVD copy, and it has zero features. And I'm glad. This kind of movie doesn't need features. It doesn't deserve features. Why does this movie have a special edition, but the freaking Hitcher has nothing? That's what grinds my gears so much about this movie is that now that it's got this special Scream Factory edition, why doesn't the Hitcher have that? Why isn't there these movies out there I've seen that I love to death? I've seen these great, fantastic horror films that have zero features, and it's just stupid how most of the time. I mean, most of the time they do give good movies features, like the Black Christmas Scream Factory release, the Dolls release, the Exorcist 3 release. That's the thing. You're putting this price level on Exorcist 3. That's making me even more triggered because no, freaking, I'm not paying the same price I would pay for Exorcist 3, which is an amazing film that you're getting amazing features for and quality. You're getting two cuts of the film, but yet you want me to pay $30 for this piece of garbage so it can get freaking, I don't know. I think it's going to get maybe fan commentary because there's actually surprisingly a lot of fans of this movie. And I didn't notice that till after I did the review. And I got like a lot of feedback from people who are like, "Oh, come on, it's not that bad. It's just a wacky bonkers movie." I'm like, I get that, but I think it's just because of how big of a fanboy I am. It's something that it's my favorite horror film franchise. Not many horror fans can actually say that about the series. Most people just don't like the series, but I think it's always been an underdog series. That's why I like it. But this is the only one that I watched. I'm like, dude, this is just horrible. It's horrible. But I do see what you mean. It does have some redeeming factors. Like I said, the Matthew McConaughey scenes are amazing. Him and Renee Zellweger steal the show. They are the only things in this movie. Everything else, in my opinion, just sucks because it's either trying to rip off the first movie, only it sucks. And there's no blood or gore. I guess so. It could be more like the first movie. Why are you remaking it? You're pretty much remaking the first movie because there's a sledgehammer death scene, there's a meat hook scene, and none of it is as intense as the first movie. And you make Leatherface such a wussy. You make him, if he's not looking like grandma, he's looking like a dang freaking prostitute. And it's like, why would you use such a beloved character? Like, by this time, Leatherface was reaching that height where the third movie was named after him. The third movie had him having that awesome chainsaw with the saw as family on it, that great tagline from part two that was used in part three. And it's like, I just don't get it. I don't get why part four was made. I don't get Kim Hankel's point. Most people say he might have been on drugs. I think so. I have no freaking clue what he was trying to do. He had a chance to make a good Chainsaw Massacre movie, and it wasn't like he couldn't make it. He's a freaking writer for the original Chainsaw Massacre. That's why I don't understand. I'm like, this should have been a good movie. And I think it's because he didn't know what kind of movie he was wanting to make. And also studio involvement. The movie got shelved. It was dumped direct to video. It has plenty of problems. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this. But this movie's score sucks. Pretty much, you put somebody on a piano and have them attack the piano with a freaking hammer. That's the score to this film. Freaking take a sledgehammer and smash a
Beat
piano.
the fuck out of the piano.
Yeah, that's the score, and I guess it's because the original had that sound effect score. I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't freaking annoying, and it wasn't. It was creepy. It was eerie. It was scary. It added to it. In this movie, it just sounded awful because not only are you having Leatherface scream like a girl, high pitched screaming from him 24/7, you got this annoying freaking somebody having a heart attack on a piano score going on in the background. You got all this screaming going on. You got people getting dragged through houses and getting, like, literally, they have shots where it's the girl being dragged through the house to get to the meat hook. And I guess, like, well, because in the original, we see her go through the house. Like, yeah, but why was it? I'll say this: why was it not annoying in the original? Because it was scary. Because it was the way that it was done. They didn't have Leatherface screaming like a girl. They didn't have him dressing like a girl. They didn't have awful music and awful actors. Like, for me, people say the original movie has bad acting. No, 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 no. Part four has bad acting, and it's like, I don't know.
Did you hear that originally the original cover was Leatherface in the middle, and on the sides was Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. And already something happened where they changed the artwork, and that is not the cover anymore. It's just Leatherface now, and Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey are taken off. Now, here's my thing. I have watched interview with Renee, and I've watched an interview with Matthew McConaughey talking about this film. You can actually find on both of them on YouTube. Neither one of them hates the movie. She actually praised it, saying how thankful she is that she got the lead role and how they trusted her and all these things. She said that there were some things that were going on the set that were not legal. She said that happened, but she said in no way, shape, or form was she ever ashamed of the movie. And she said no way, shape, or form did she ever try to stop the release of the movie, despite a lot of reports at that time, because when she made Jerry Maguire, then they tried to haul ass. They tried to haul ass to get this movie to the big screen, and that really baffles me because somebody did try to stop the release, and I'm thinking maybe it was Matthew McConaughey's agent,
Yeah,
because when
that's
they
why I got
interviewed
no.
when they
They're both
interviewed
great.
Matthew McConaughey about it, he said I felt the same way as Renee. I was so thrilled that I had a big part in a movie, and especially in a movie with a name like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He said, "I'm not ashamed of the performance, and I'm not ashamed of the movie." So neither one of them, and all honesty, I think they both sounded pretty genuine to me. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm too oblivious to see that maybe they both do hate it, but man, I from coming from what they said, I don't think either one of them had ill will towards the movie. Um, with that said, they've already been taken off the Scream Factory cover, and Scream Factory is not releasing why they were. So I'm just very confused. Like I'm thinking that maybe still that Matthew McConaughey's agent still has a problem with him being associated with it. But in that point case, why was Renee Zellweger taken off the cover? And I believe, are they not on the DVD that you have? Aren't they on the
Yeah,
cover?
they're the two main faces on the cover. The other face is the most minor thing on my DVD cover. It's
Yeah,
them.
are. Yeah, look up on Google because they changed the cover. I wish I could show you on here. I'm looking
Right.
for it right now. If you find it before I do, let me know. But
Okay.
yeah, the original cover had the two of them on it, and then now it's just Leatherface. And I was like, holy shit, that was literally a week ago. It was this cover, and now it's this one. And I looked up to try to find out as to why, and it was a very like bullshitty. It was just like creative differences or something.
I do see the one they have now. Where is? It's weird because all the other posters have Renee Zellweger and Matthew Oh, I see it. Isn't it kind of like it looks like trees, and it shows Matthew McConaughey smiling, and it shows Renee Zellweger's face to the side. Yeah, they removed that to it just being a full moon in the background with their face.
Yeah, I don't know. It's my camera and shit is mad blurry tonight, but this was, yeah, I think that's a little bit
Yeah, I
clearer.
see it.
This was the original cover, and now they
It looks
changed it
different.
to this, where there's neither one of them on the side. And that literally happened within a span of a week. And like I'd love to know what like who pulled the plug on that,
Well,
because
here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger enjoy the film. I'm thinking that maybe because I believe them, and I totally respect that because they work really hard in the film, and you can see that.
I agree.
I think that the reason they probably enjoy it the most is because I'm pretty sure it was a blast to make, and I'm pretty sure that they put their effort and their faith in the director and everybody involved, and I'm pretty sure their production itself was fun. I'm pretty sure they enjoyed the concept. It's just I think that the reason this movie, because it says a lot when this movie first got like announced. I think it was just a case of bad timing because Matthew McConaughey had Jerry Maguire coming out, or not Jerry Maguire. Renee Zellweger had Jerry Maguire coming out, and Matthew McConaughey had A Time to Kill coming out. And both of their agents, I don't know if it was just Matthew McConaughey or both of theirs. I've heard two different stories, but they didn't want the movie coming out because they felt like it was exploiting the actors, and they were going to use Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger's name this whole film. And partial part part of me can see that because really that's the only thing you have in this movie. There's nothing else that's valuable besides those two actors. Um, but I think the reason why is because the reason why they enjoyed the film so much is because they got to see the things that we didn't. They got to see the original concept of the film. They got to see the original scripts. They got to see the original ideas. And I'm pretty sure that if we could have a clearer understanding of what the original intention for the film was, I wouldn't be so mad about it. See, that's the thing that makes me so mad is that Kim Henkel never explained clearly, to me at least, why he would make a film like this. Because the only thing I can probably say is he wanted to make a crazy film, and he succeeded in that, but it's a bad crazy film because for me the negatives far outweigh the positives. I mean, you have two really great positives. You have Renee Zellweger, Matthew McConaughey. All the other actors suck in the film. Everybody else sucks. They're awful. And then you have the fact that there's no gore, which was intentional, but it could have been a plus to have gore. There's no gore. There's no moments that I thought were classic, other than that standoff between, once again, Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. I think they brought everything to the role. And I think that when they see their work, they're definitely not disappointed. And I respect that. And I respect their opinions on the film. But this has just always been a film that, from day one when I seen it, I was just so mad at it. And I'm still mad at it because it's just like, now that we have this Blu-ray to explain why Kim Henkel did this stuff and why the studio was so harsh to this film, because the reason this movie failed is because not only bad timing but a bad studio. Columbia was the worst studio you could have got for this at this time, because Columbia was ashamed of this film. Before this came out, it was scheduled to come out in 1994. It got shelved to 1997, and then I think it got released in 4 theaters in the U.S. and then it got dumped and pretty much abandoned in direct video. And I think it's just a bad thing to see how this concept could have been done well. And that's the thing, like, I don't think it really is all Kim Henkel's fault. I think it's just a bad mixture. It's a bad milkshake. There's a lot of uh, bad flavoring in it. It's a really bad
It's a
milkshake.
shit shake.
Yeah, it's a crap shake with a rotten cherry. No, no, Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey are the cherry on top. They're the pristine cherry on top.
Yeah, and the
Everything
rest is a
else,
chocolate shit shake.
yeah, everything else is a diarrhea shake because you gotta slurp it down to get to that cherry, and you gotta just go through this awful, annoying stuff that most fans were trying to explain to me, like, you don't understand it, Nate. You don't understand it. It's not meant to be taken seriously. I'm like, so what is it? A comedy? Is it comedy? It's not a comedy because it's not funny. Like, well, no, it's not a comedy. It's just, and I'm not trying to make fun of the fans at all because that's their opinion. But they were trying to explain it to me, and I just had no clue on why they were such big fans. And I'm not talking about just thinking the movie's fun. They're big fans of it. There's a really big cult following for this film. And with films like Halloween 3 and other horror films that, have these cult followings, like, Evil Dead and stuff like that, I can see that. I just don't see it with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4. I can see it with Part 2. I can see it with Part 3. I can see it with um, the remakes following. That universe is following. I can see it with that. I just cannot see it with Part 4 because for me, there's just no redeeming qualities. I mean, if I would go down the list, everything is pretty much negative. So I don't know. I feel like if we would have gotten the original cut, which was the Return of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then it would have been able to explain a little bit more. And I guess it was released, and I guess it has extra footage in it, but from what I've heard, it's pretty much pointless footage. But it's shocking to me that this is a movie that has not only Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, two of the biggest stars of the 90s, but you also have Paul Partain, Franklin from the original coming back, and you also have Sally Hardesty, Marilyn Byrne coming back at the end of the film in a cameo. This is the first movie to do that, and they do it in this movie, and it doesn't really. I don't see how it makes sense because it's like, so this was years later, so now is Renee Zellweger going to go crazy? It's just like the movie had no clue where it was going, and the whole Illuminati aspect I found to be ridiculous because it's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make it like, oh, maybe an audience secretly does know about this, and maybe it's not scary enough. It's just like it gives you all these things like, well, it's up to you to figure it out. And it's like there's nothing to figure out. It just sucks, you know?
Definitely. I definitely agree with you, man. And it'll be interesting to see the features, I think, on this Scream Factory DVD Blu-ray. I'm not gonna buy it because unless that price drops down to
Yeah,
$5 or below,
that's what
you
I
can
was getting ready
forget
to say.
it.
My limit is $3. If it's
Yeah.
not $3, I'm not getting it. And that's
Yeah,
how much I paid for the other DVD.
and it's super, super interesting. I would love to see if they could possibly get Renee Zellweger or Matthew McConaughey to sit down and do interviews since they don't have ill will towards the movie. But at the same time, it already smells really fucking fishy that they released them. They removed them from the cover. That's really strange to me. Like, I
Yeah,
would
it
love
is.
to know. I guess Michael Felcher would be the guy to ask as to why they did that. I would just assume that maybe one of their agents said, "Get them the hell off that cover. You're not using them to sell this movie anymore." Maybe that's what they did because they couldn't stop them back in the day, and maybe now they could. But I don't know. I would love to find out the reason as to why that is because it would be very interesting to hear. But as for Kim Henkel, as for whoever the hell they get to talk about that movie, I don't know, man. I don't know, but it'll be very interesting to hear an explanation because we have never really gotten one. I don't think Kim Henkel's ever really given his whole 2 cents. I know there's a
Yeah,
documentary of the making of the Next Generation, but I've never seen it, but I don't think he goes too far in depth of the post release. Like I'd
yeah,
love to hear what he thought of, McConaughey's agent fighting the movie and why he thinks people dislike it and why what he was going for. That would be to me more interesting than even the movie itself. Like I'd love to hear why the hell like why it's just it's the simplest question in the world but a question that we'd all like to know the answer to why
absolutely, man. It'd be the question of the dang century. You're like groundbreaking historic news. Like, I think the only thing that Kim Hinkle has actually officially said is that he wanted to make a movie that was similar to the first movie. He wanted to do it in the vein of the first movie. That's it. That's all I know is that he wanted to make it in the vein of the first movie. He wanted to make it outrageous and crazy, and I guess he did it. It's his vision, and I
yeah
respect
the
every. Like,
Illuminati.
yeah, like
That's the shit like don't understand like that makes no goddamn sense like that guy basically comes in and you're led to believe that the Illuminati has been controlling the Sawyer family all along, and that they're not crazy redneck hick cannibals
you know what's
that live
funny?
in the middle of Texas. They're actually controlled by the government, the
Yeah,
Illuminati, and aliens. Like when
it's
you get into that
so weird.
territory, like you can't tell me that you're not snorting cocaine before you write that shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like. It's very much probably drug influenced script or heavy studio influence script. But what's funny is that in this movie, they're not called the Sawyers anymore. They're called the Slaughters.
The
It's actually
Slaughters,
they're called the Slaughters.
Sergeant Slaughters.
Isn't it? Oh gosh, that was like perfect timing.
Thank
But
you, I
yeah, I was
appreciate
like
it.
Slaughters, and it's like, oh, get it? Because they slaughter people. Get it? Ha ha. No, no, you're failing. You're failing. Stop.
Yeah, it's a really really poor movie. I do get enjoyment out of it for some whatever retarded reason.
It is
I
funny.
yeah, it's funny how batshit
Yeah,
crazy it is. Like it's just so strange. Like I'll be honest, I don't hate it like most hate it. I think I'm more fascinated by its badness than am I angered by it. Like it's very rare that a movie angers me, but like American Psycho 2 to me is miles worse than this movie. Same thing with Creepshow 3. I think both
Oh
of
yeah,
those movies are way worse. At least this
yeah,
movie has two good acting performances, and at least this movie is a watchable train wreck. The
yeah.
other two movies, Creepshow 3 is a chore to get through, and American Psycho 2, unless you are on Monster or Red Bull or Sugar Rush, it is a cure for insomnia. That movie could put you to sleep in a minute. It's so horrendously boring and uneventful and terrible, man. And man, imagine if they got somebody that wasn't Mila Kunis. Like Mila Kunis is hot. At least you have that. But man, she can't even carry that movie, man. It's just so bad. I would put those movies way, way
Yeah.
lower than I'd put this movie.
I'd take this movie any day over those two movies. And I haven't even seen American Psycho 2, but I already take this one over it.
Well, I think you and I are equally angered by Creepshow 3 because Creepshow 3 is just a shit. It's literally a proverbial literal dump on the movies that we grew up loving and the people that made those movies that we grew up loving. Are the proverbial Stephen Kings and George Romero's and Tom Savini's of the world. It's such a middle finger to those guys and their hard work and why movies and horror movies were magical and the points of them and thinking up ways, clever, inventive ways to kill people and show blood and the nods to 50s EC comic horror. It's just such a middle finger to those guys, and that's why I really get angry with something like a Creepshow 3. This movie is actually from the creator. You know what I mean? It's from the guy that wrote it. And is it bad? Absolutely, but I will say at least it's enjoyably terrible. Like I can totally get through this movie no problem. Like
Yeah,
there was never a point where I was like I want to turn it off. And I've seen the movie
yeah.
twice.
The
I've
thing
never
is,
wanted to turn it off. Go
the
ahead, sorry.
thing is, the thing
Yeah.
is, I know that most of the time it would seem like I'm very angry with it, and I am. There's two halves of me that I'll talk about this movie. Like, there's two different point of views that I got on this film. One half hates it partially because of the fact of how badly it disrespects my favorite franchise, and I'm a big fan of this franchise, and how bad of a stinker it is. The other half of me is like, I mean, it has this weird energy to it that kind of draws you to it. It's not bad or good. It's just a really bizarre energy, and it'll make you laugh because of how bad the acting is. It'll make you laugh because of different things these characters do. Like freaking that crazy lady just comes into the kitchen, and her and Matthew McConaughey had like the most wild makeout scene ever, and out of nowhere. Freaking the funniest scene though for me is when that the Tyler character locks W out of his own house. He's like, no, I locked him out. I'm like, out of his own house. It was hilarious. And it's like, this guy has no brain. He's like, oh yeah, this guy out there with a shotgun locked him out of the house. Like, yeah, but it's his house. You idiot. But it's so funny. And I don't know. It's definitely bizarre. Half of me hates it. Half of me can say that yeah, it's definitely a lot more watchable than Creepshow 3, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot more enjoyable than American Psycho 2.
I would say stabbing yourself in the throat would be more enjoyable than American Psycho 2.
Oh goodness.
Strangling yourself with a condom. That would be more enjoyable.
No, it's like, well, thanks for the inspiration, movie. I'm just gonna go
Oh
do
my
that now.
god, it's just like, oh, I still can't get over it. But yeah, I feel you, man. I definitely agree. It's a bad train wreck, but it's totally watchable. Whereas there are movies, the movies I'd put lower are just unwatchable train wrecks. And
Yeah,
I think the thing that all three of them has in common is they all really shit on their predecessors.
yeah, and then the characters and the lore and the story.
Everything. Yes, exactly. The only thing I'll say is Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation shit on it the least.
Yeah, in the most entertaining way.
Yes, definitely agree. I think the other two are absolute abominations, whereas TCM: The Next Generation is just like the most insane, bizarre, weird, terribly funny movie. But man, it's a strange one. But dude, I freaking enjoy talking about these movies with you. I love these streams, man.
Yeah, they're a blast to do. We talk about all kinds of crazy topics, man. They really are fun to do. We kind of just talk about various things on these streams, and that's the funnest part is that it's completely unfiltered. It's completely just going for it, and whatever we want to talk about, we can. That's just basically us hanging out live, just chilling and talking about horror films. It's just live. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and it's a huge reason why I really want to get into the radio business and why I really want to do this for the rest of my life because I think it's something I just never get burnt out of talking about. Like
Yeah.
whether it's horror, whether it's wrestling, whether it's other things I'm interested in, music, whatever. I just enjoy talking about stuff that I'm passionate about with people who are equally passionate about these things, and I think that it's just fun because we started the night. We had the main goal was to talk about cannibal films, and we talked about the current state of the genre. We talked about creepy pastas. We talked about paranormal movies. We talked about Texas Chainsaw Next Generation, good sequels, bad sequels, cannibal movies, Sleepaway Camp 2 30th anniversary. I mean, we covered so much shit that we didn't even plan. And that's the fun of shooting from the hip with friends that are passionate because you can't do that with somebody you don't have chemistry with. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have chemistry with the person, then I don't think it would ever work. But I think we've done enough of these streams now where we actually have a pretty good chemistry. And I would say Steve and Gideon definitely are right along those lines with us. They have really good chemistry as well with us. And yeah, man, I just really enjoy doing these streams, and I hope the few people that listen get something out of them because it's totally like what I want to do for the rest of my life. Maybe not getting paid on a YouTube stream. I don't think that's possible, but if I get a late night radio gig, I know who I'd want one of my callers to be, and it would definitely be the explorer of horror, Nate Murphy, Horror Boy 465.
Oh, thanks, man. That's thank you so much, man. That means so much, man. I mean, I just I to be honest, I'm a really big fan of horror. Not only because of the movies. I think my favorite part about being a horror fan is I get to meet people like John, like Steve, like Gideon, and my endless people I've met over the years, and I've done streams with, and I've gotten to know these people, and I consider them all really great friends of mine. And that's the cool thing, man. Is like we can get on here, and it's not like we're kind of forcing ourselves to talk about this stuff. It's just kind of like whatever goes goes. It's we're going with the flow. We talk about whatever we want to talk about. It's however long the stream goes, it goes, and it's kind of like no filter, and I love that because we can all get our different opinions out and discuss different things, and we're not those you know people where we'll hold a knife to each other's throats about our opinions. We actually respect each other's opinions, and that's the thing I really like also. But yeah, my favorite part about being a horror fan is is hanging out and talking with you, John, and and hanging out and talking about different kinds of horror films. We discussed Grindhouse. We've discussed pretty much all kinds of genres, not only just Grindhouse, but a lot of horror subgenres, and even some action movies as well, and even some comedies, and talked about some really bizarre films as well. But yeah, it's always fun to get on here and talk about this stuff with you, man. And it's always a blast to have you on. And it'll be very cool. And I really do wish you luck in doing that. I think you'll be a great radio host. I think you're going to be, as I say, the next big thing, man. The pajama pants player is going to be a really big streamer slash podcaster. I think it's going to be great, man. I really do wish you all the luck in the world with that, man. I think it's going to be great.
Dude, thank you so much for the support, man. That's another thing, man. Like people like you, people like Henry, people that support me in doing the things that I want to do. It's so much more encouraging for me to go out there and actually go and do it. And who knows, maybe someday down the line I will get my own show, and maybe they will let me talk about weird horror movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 4. Maybe that will happen. In a perfect world, that will happen. I'll get paid good money to do it and can live out of, that tailor-made lifestyle. But Man, I do enjoy these kind of precursor nights and these nights where we can just shoot the breeze as horror fans about whatever the topic may be. It's really nice, and I dig these streams a lot, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's no problem, man. Like I said, man, these streams are extremely fun to do. I've been doing them for a while. Pretty much ever since YouTube invented Google Plus, which everybody hated, including myself, because it was trending. It was trending and it was popular to hate Google Plus. But let's be honest, man. If it wasn't for Google Plus, we wouldn't have Google Live, and if it wasn't for Google Live, we wouldn't have these live streams here on YouTube for you guys. So, I've been doing them for a while, and they're really fun to do, and it's really awesome to get you guys on here and let's just kind of hang out and talk about different things, talk about different horror films we've seen recently, talk about different things we've read, things we're excited for, and it's always a blast, man. And I just wanted to say thanks so much, John Grande, for being on here, man. It was so awesome and fun to be discussing these films with you, man, and discussing different things. It was a really awesome broadcast tonight, man.
Dude, ditto, man. Same here, same to you. And I had a fucking blast, man. I can't wait to do it again. The school year is starting for me soon. I got 2 weeks till I go back to senior year of college, so I'll be making my walk for the diploma in the spring. Hopefully, if all goes well, which I think it all will. But yeah, it's just crazy. I feel like this was my last summer as a kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like next summer I'm an adult and I am thrown into the crazy vortex that is known as the real world, and it's scary. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, but I'm also equally as excited and uh thrilled about it. So I think it should be kind of a cool, this is a really good summer, and I enjoy looking forward to the next broadcast we do. Hopefully it'll be somewhere around Halloween time. We could watch maybe we'll do a Texas Chainsaw retrospective, because since we talked a little bit about the series tonight, we could talk about all the movies. I think that would be a lot of fun. If you haven't already done that, I think that'd be a fun idea for a stream.
Oh heck yeah, man! I don't really think I have yet. I think the only franchise discussions we've done is Child's Play, Nightmare, Friday the 13th, and I think that's it. So we'll definitely try to schedule that one of these days and get us a Texas Chainsaw Massacre discussion on here, bro. That'd be really awesome.
Sounds great to me, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, anyways, I wish you complete luck in anything that you want to pursue, John. I hope everything goes well for you. You're an awesome person, and just always be awesome and rock on forever, as Steve says. And I want to I want to say thanks to everybody that's watching. I want to say thanks to Henry for watching, and all of you guys who supported the stream and watched and sticking it through with us and talking and hearing us talk about different various topics. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the Explorer of Horror, Horrorboy 465 here, and we are out. See you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Peace, guys.